Good evening and welcome to the fourth round of Season 2 of the Sim Racing Hub International GT4 Championship. And we fly from Bologna in Italy to Liège and Belgium and the iconic Spa-Francorchamps circuit, from one legendary track to another. But this one posing a certainly different challenge in these GT4 cars, not less to mention the weather that might be on its way this evening. The current venue for the Formula One Belgian Grand Prix, hosting its first Grand Prix back in 1925 and has held a Grand Prix every year since 1985. Only on a couple of occasions has Formula One failed to visit, mainly due to track changes and issues with the series. But tonight we go racing in GT4s, very different cars to the machines we're so akin to seeing fly around the 7 kilometres in the Ardennes forest. And it's a place at the top. There's a track at the top of many drivers' lists of favourite circuits, and it's easy to see why, with iconic corners such as Eau Rouge, the challenging roller coaster that climbs uphill, flat out in many a car, but a challenge in GT machinery, the chicane at Les Combes, and then you come down the hill through Pouhon and into the Piff Paff before the corner that really tests the will of drivers through Blanchimont and into the tricky bus stop to round out the lap. But an exciting race ahead of us after a thrilling event at Imola 2 weeks ago. Thank you for joining us if you are watching on YouTube. I hope you stick around and enjoy the race ahead this evening. And I'm joined in the commentary box by my commentator and good friend, Steve Proudly. Now, Steve, an exciting event at Imola last time out, and more of the same due to come our way this evening at Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the SRHI boys, they don't know how to do boring, do they? Every round so far has been really, really good, very interesting. Some fantastic battles, some really hard-fought battles, some fantastic driving up and down the field. And we've had, I would say we've had our fair share of wet races, and I think Spa is one of those tracks. If we get a wet race with the GT4s, it could be a good leveler, because I think in the GT4 class, more than the GT3s, I think there is a difference in the balance of performance. You know, there's some of the cars really excel at these higher speed tracks compared to, shall we say, the poor old the poor old Ginetta. The Caterham really would struggle against these guys. But yeah, the Ginetta, you know, I mean, it's not the best, but if we can get some rain around Spa tonight, it could just level things up a little bit, open the door to a few mistakes for a few people, you know, and a bit of a shake up at the front end. But I mean, our friend Sam Spenkling, he must be favourite tonight in the KTM. He's shown some good pace so far in the GT4s, and it has to be said, coming off the back of a win in the last round of the GT3s at Barcelona in the Porsche, and he's very, very handy in the wet. So if we get some wet conditions tonight, he could be one to watch, I think.
Well, we saw in the opening round at Brands Hatch, where it was absolutely tipping it down for the entirety of the event, that Sem was the driver to beat. And if we take a look at the championship standings for this season 2 so far, it isn't Sem who leads the way, surprisingly. It is in fact Tim Krul, who's had a string of consistent performances, a podium in the opening round at Brands Hatch, followed by 2 fourth place finishes at Suzuka and Imola, sees him lead the way in the standings of the pro class, with Yannick Valenduk in second in the BMW and Sem Spenkelink there in third, with Michael Hutman in the Camaro in fourth. And then it's a train of Porsches in fifth, sixth, seventh and eighth. Nicolas Malott, Dennis Verkman, Alexander Delors and Lewis Clark, with Patrick Tractor tied on points with Lewis Clark in the Ginetta, the highest placed Ginetta in the championship, with Andre Brendel rounding out the top 10. Obviously 2 classes here in the Sim Racing Hub International GT4 category. Evan Tafas leads the way in the Aston Martin, picking up 1 win in the class so far. Then second is Danny Desport, who was top of the pile last time out at Imola, out of everyone, with Lee Mosley third in the championship standings, ahead of Denise Pope in one of the Ginettas on our grid, with Suke Vervat in fifth. Then we have Manuel Willems, Rick Lotterman, Ian Thompson, Arjun van der Linden and Mark Dieters rounding out the top 10 in the AM Championship. And we see there, Steve, a mix of cars, and you alluded to it this evening, that we can see unique characteristics of these GT4 cars play out on track. And on a track like Spa, with its long straights but also technical sections, factor in the wet as well, it could be a massive leveler between the likes of the Ginettas and the slightly faster, the Porsches or the Camaros that are pretty handy in a straight line, but also presents an opportunity for someone to really turn the tide in the championship fight.
Yeah, absolutely. As we've said, that the rain is going to it could potentially level things out, and I'm just looking. They are going out now on their outlaps. Qualifying is just starting, and it's a long old outlap here, so make a mistake and it's a long time to get back around. The qualifying is 30 minutes in total, so you have got plenty of time, but over sort of, what is it, about, I think in the wet they're going to be over 2:30, aren't they, on the lap times? So it is a long old way back round to start another flying lap again, and like you say, it is a good leveler. People will make mistakes. Some of the maybe less powerful or shall we say handicapped cars that maybe aren't quite as quick in a straight line as some of the other guys, it will level things out for them. But the key to this is going to be a good qualifying, because going down through Eau Rouge for the first time in amongst all the spray in a pack of cars, we are going to see incidents. We may see slight touches, because we all know that at the top of Eau Rouge there is a Radion there at the right hand side. I think it is that we've seen a few incidents there in the past where there's been standing water, and that has caught a few drivers out. And I think once they start trying to go 2-3 wide up there, then we might see one or two incidents. So qualifying is going to be important for the guys, and I think they need to concentrate on getting a banker lap in first, as we join Evan Tafas, who is on his going round to start his first flying lap, I believe, very shortly.
To make it more difficult for drivers, it's not completely dry, nor is it completely wet. It's damp at the moment, so that horrible in between where the track is greasy, it's got a sheen to it, a shine that you can see the lights reflecting off the track surface in some parts of the track. And obviously here at Spa, one of the longer Grand Prix circuits, just over 4 meters over 7 kilometers in length. It could be dry towards one end or at one particular corner, and damp and soaking wet towards the other, such as the climate of this Ardennes circuit. But one of the trickiest corners is the one that starts off your lap at La Source, a tricky hairpin, get the car stopped and turned in. And Evan Tafas heads down the hill in these greasy conditions towards Eau Rouge. And this corner, Steve, we talk about it. It doesn't matter if you're in GT4s, Formula 1, WEC, GT3 endurance racing. Eau Rouge is a challenge regardless, even in the best of conditions. But tonight, like you say, in a pack of nearly 30 GT4 cars, that's going to be a real action point this evening. Yeah,
absolutely. And Denise Pope, I just have to give her a shout out. She is on the grid this evening. She will be, you will see her shortly, hopefully, in a Ginetta. But if you check out her social media on Instagram in particular, she posted a video, I think it was only 2 days ago or yesterday even, maybe. She was practicing for this event, and she came up through Eau Rouge, and in the second half, as she came out to exit the second part of Eau Rouge, she was full drift in the Ginetta, and the tagline just said, "That's how you take Eau Rouge," or "That's how you take this corner." I can't exactly remember, but it is well worth a watch. So just look up Denise on Instagram if you can, Denise Pope, and check that video out. Some good car control there, and to keep it all in line and actually get a good exit through there. I'm sure it wasn't the quickest way through Eau Rouge though, Tim, but it looked good.
Yes, and that's sometimes the aim of the game. But with just under 24 minutes to go in the session, we're still watching Evan Tafas heading round. A few of the times have come in at the moment. Tim Krul currently top of the standings with a 2-minute 40.746, with Alexander Delors close in behind at a little under 10th and a half, with Mikael Hutman in the 84 Camaro 6/10 further back. And we saw a very close qualifying Imola in the dry. It's obviously a shorter circuit, but the middle, almost 15 drivers separated by a second really from positions around 8th down to the 20s. It was really close, but an opportunity here at a slightly longer track to set a better time and maybe have a buffer over another driver with this qualifying session as we head into under 23 minutes to go. Tafas now tasked with rounding the bus stop as cleanly as possible. He runs in slightly deep, terrible understeer in the wet conditions, and in these kind of conditions, Steve, as we go on board with Sem Spenkelink, the driver who pretty much wiped the floor with everyone at Brands Hatch in the wet, it's damp. It looks like it's going to intensify, judging by the weather forecast in the top right-hand corner. Are you going out on slicks to brave it, or are you maybe just taking the wets and getting some more time in? Or really, is it just a gamble on whatever compound you choose to take out there on track?
It's a bit of a gamble because it's a long old lap as well, and the problem is when you start pushing in these conditions, when it's not really completely wet and it's not dry as it says there, it's damp. It's the tyre temperatures. If you go out there on slicks, you're not going to get any heat into them. You're going to be sliding all over, and potentially costing yourself time with traction issues and grip issues. You're just balancing that car on a knife edge. But if you go out in the wets, yes, you might initially get a bit more grip, but on a long lap like this, it'd be very easy to push hard for the full lap, as we're just seeing Sem getting held up a little bit now. But it'd be very easy to push hard for a full lap, and a lap of this length you could find yourself halfway to 3/4 of the way around with some tyres that are very, very hot and offering you very, very little grip to the track. So it's I don't mind damp and wet conditions. I quite enjoy driving in the rain. It puts up another challenge, but these conditions, it's a little bit of a lottery. It has to be said, and especially like say on a lap that's as long as this as well, because it's harder to nurse those tyres if you have got it wrong or it's not quite right for a lap as long as this and for full commitment.
Like you say, it's those tyre temps. If you can get out there and really drive that heat into the tyres on your out lap, then you're set up for the your first attempt at a flyer with some nicely warmed rubber underneath you, and such as the level of detail in ACC that so often that is the deciding factor. We hear from drivers, struggling with pressures and temperatures, and it is a very real issue that these drivers have to take into consideration. But Sem, heading up the hill, it is a hill. It might look slightly flat. The cameras don't do it justice, but trust me, it is a climb up the hill through Blanchemont and towards the bus stop as he goes through the fast left-hander, keeps all four wheels inside, well, two wheels over the white line up towards the chicane that rounds out the lap. And in that time where we've been talking, Mikael Hutman has gone top with the 240.296, so he bettered Tim Krul's time by nearly half a second. Sem rounding the final corner, getting across the line to go second by 0.003 of a second. So it's already hotting up, Steve. It's getting close. I think we better get ready for this one to get even closer, because drivers are out there on their laps at the moment. And with a session like this, you're constantly learning, aren't you? Constantly adjusting to the conditions, how the corners are, how your car is in each of these individual corners. And really, you're building pace as the session progresses.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely building pace. You're building confidence. That's the big thing. You're building knowledge. You're finding the grip levels. You're finding those braking points. You're finding that standing water, if there is any. I mean, a damp track, you wouldn't expect there to be too much, although we can see a little bit of spray starting to kick up off the tyres, so it is getting wetter as we see Thompson there just going that little bit too deep into that corner. Sem at the moment, he's rounding his second flying lap, and I think that first lap was more of a banker, which is good, as I say, to come, because look at that, as you said, that gap is so close, but he's already a full tenth up at the moment on his last lap, so he's carrying more speed. He's going to try, he's attacking a little bit more. I think he's got some confidence now. He's got that banker lap in, as a lot of them have. They will start to push. In fact, Sem now is 4/10 up. He's one of the few drivers at the moment that's on a lap that is up. Another man that's also up at the moment is this man, and he is now 4/10 up again on his time, so he's going to jump up that leaderboard a little bit. Currently 3.5 seconds off the provisional pole time. But yeah, I think as the confidence builds, we will see time to come down. But I mean, we've had 12 minutes of qualifying already, and there's not that many laps being done, and that is just because obviously Spa is such a long old circuit.
Yeah, and actually that previous lap by Sem Spenkelink was slightly hindered by the traffic, which was Balkamp, I believe, in the BMW. So time to be found on the table. We saw Willems there going wide through Blanchemont, where they just got a wheel on the curb, which seemed to move him out across the white line. Surely will have invalidated his lap time. So he'll have to get settled and go again, as Dennis Workman now heads down towards Bruxelles, or Rivage, or whatever name you want to call it, and towards the corner which was so often called No Name, but I believe has actually been nicknamed X now after the brilliant Jackie Ickx, who made a name for himself around the Belgian Grand Prix circuit here at Spa-Francorchamps. Then you head down the hill towards Pau on the very difficult left-hander. It's a double left, really. You've got to be careful, though, in that middle part there, not to get on that curb too much on the outside and find yourself losing grip or indeed invalidate your time by running all four wheels over the curb down towards the Piff Path. Bergman now working this low section of the track, the back part really, before he begins the climb towards four wheels over the white line there on the exit of the Piff Path into Stavelot, and then the Paul Frere curve heading back up towards start finish. A big slide. He got on the curb on the outside, and again he's four-wheel drifting that Porsche Cayman round the curb Paul Frere. That's going to be a lot of time left on the table for Bergman. I doubt he's still up.
He's 1.2 seconds up still.
So he's held on to the time somehow. Maybe it was a very quick drift, but he'll know that there's still that pace out there on the track, so he'll want to go again. Very wide, understeering all the way through Blanchimont and off over the white line.
That's done the job.
Yeah, lap time gone that time. So unfortunately for Willems, he'll have to go again. Luke Pound, pole sitter at Suzuka, I believe, was very fast in this Aston Martin, number 166, and really has shown his pace throughout this season, but unable to really deliver the results that maybe he deserves. But let's see how he gets on this evening. Remember, he ran out of fuel on the final lap at Suzuka when he was set for a top 5 finish. So gutting for Luke to end like that, but hopefully at this circuit at Spa, the Aston Martin should go well. He's currently 2.9 seconds off provisional pole, but he looks like he's going faster.
He's 2.1 seconds up as well, so if he can get these next couple of apexes right and get the power down, he's going to bring it home and he's going to climb up that leaderboard. Obviously, if everything was in tidy through the lap and he's not exceeded any limits in D's, he's 4/10 off the provisional pole and in 4th place. And just going back to that mistake he made at Suzuka with the fuel, running out of fuel, I wonder if we're going to get to the end of this season and, with this level of competition, when it's so tight, so close, it's those incidents, isn't it, that are going to really count, and they're the ones that are going to hurt. As we see Patrick Tractor just coming back into the pits. He was on a quicker lap, but he's now decided to abort that and go back to the pits.
We talk about unforced errors so often in GT4 racing. Sometimes it's not your pace or your ability to make overtakes or your strategy. Sometimes it's just if you make the least mistakes in a field this close, you're spot on there, Steve. That decision, that instant with Luke running out of fuel, could come back to bite him at championship end. But at the moment, as we head into the second half of this qualifying session, it's Mikael Huttmann in the 84 Camaro that leads the way, a 2-minute 40.296, still the time that keeps him at the top of the standings. Then it's Sem Spenkelink in the 76 KTM, 0.003 of a second behind in second place. Then it's Tim Kroll and Luke Pound in third and fourth, with Alexander Delors and Daniel Schenk in sixth. Then it's Patrick Tractor, Yannick Valenduk, 1.8 seconds back is the 301 BMW driver. Then Nicholas Malott and Denise Pope is our highest placed AM driver, rounding out the top 10, 2.1 seconds off the pole time. So we're seeing a bit of a spread between the drivers, but that is expected at the longest Spa-Francorchamps circuit. But here is Tim Kroll in the 933 Lork driving Porsche Cayman, rounding the final 2 turns at the bus stop, set to cross the line. And I wonder if he's about to go quicker as he gets the power down nicely. No squirrely moments on the exit there, and he crosses the line to go pole. So just after I'd given you the rundown, Tim Kroll shuffles things up and does a 2-minute 40.146 to go exactly the 10th and a half faster than Mikael Huttmann's time in the Camaro. So Kroll has pace in the Cayman. It's Porsche, Camaro, KTM, Aston Martin, Porsche is your top 5. So 4 brands in the top 4, which is very nice to see. As Malott heads up to the final chicane, he sets to be improving as well on his time. Rounds the right, gets the car into the left, and if he can get a clean exit and drive to the line, see where he can go. Currently 2.2 seconds off the pole time, and he crosses the line. Fails to improve on that last lap. Actually was 0.3 slower. It's Andreas Garlin, the new driver this evening in the 88 Audi, sets his first fantastic lap actually there. up into P8, so he's 1.4 seconds off pole, is now the best placed AM driver, knocking Denise Pope down a couple of positions. But here is the 79 Wild Things Ginetta, and Steve, Denise has had plenty of experience in this car. We've seen her racing in other series in the Ginetta. It's certainly a little bundle of fun, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Denise certainly is a committed sim racer now, as well as a very talented designer for liveries and other things like that. But yeah, I think she probably right in saying she's probably on the sim every single day, and as most of the guys will be, and that's what counts. It's putting the practice in. We've known Denise for a good few months now, like you say, racing in other series with her and commentating here at SRHI, and I don't think she'd mind saying that we've seen an improvement. I think, and not so much speed. I think it's all about consistency, isn't it? And especially in these conditions, it's about just keeping the thing pointing in the right direction. It's not about being absolutely flat out every lap. It's just about being somewhere near every lap, but keeping it tidy and keeping it going, and not making those mistakes and those unforced errors that cost positions. But definitely, Denise is climbing up the leaderboard at the moment, and as we said, the weather is a leveler. The Ginetta, we've got 4 Ginettas in the top 20, which in dry conditions, I think you'd have to be very talented against the Porsches, the BMWs, McLarens, and things like, and the Mercedes and things like that to beat them on speed at a track like Spa.
Well, Denise certainly seems to be enjoying herself, and yeah, it's exactly, Steve, you allude to there, the consistency. Sometimes Denise, we've seen her get caught up in incidents that weren't really her own fault or her own doing, but in that consistency, she's enabled herself to get out of those situations and score some good results, which is exactly what she needs to do to start building a strong championship position. We saw her pretty high up in the AM standing, so let's hope that she can kick on tonight at Spa. Here's Nicholas Malott in the number 6 Cayman. Now, Nicholas finished second twice in a row, so a second place at Suzuka and a second place last time out at Imola has really helped boost his championship challenge. As he comes through the bus stop, though, improving on 12th place will be crucial if he wants to get a good result this evening. We think qualifying will be important. He crosses the line to jump inside the top 10 with a 2-minute 41.886. That takes him up to 9th position, 1.7 seconds off pole as it stands as we head into the final 10 minutes. Here's Callum Boyd, another new addition to the grid this evening in the 23 McLaren, heading in towards the bus stop. He gets the car stopped nicely over the right-hand apex, then the car switched over to the left. Very clean run through the final 2 turns here at Spa, and across the line he's 19th, but goes up to 14th, so a very nice improvement from the McLaren driver. Luke Pound rounds the final corner as well. He's on a lap. He's currently 6/10 off pole, and he lowers the margin down to a little over 4.5 tenths, but that's not going to be enough to improve his position. As it stands, he still lies in 4th place behind Tim Krul, the current pole sitter. But let's see if these drivers can improve their time. The track is now officially wet, so I wonder if there's anyone brave still out there on slicks, or whether they now will have all decided that the wet tyres are the correct ones to have. You'd have to be brave to try and make it out and around in the slick tyres on your car, as we see Ian Thompson here in the 666 Camaro through the X curve, or no name, whichever you want to call it, down the hill towards the Pouhon corner. Gets the car turned in nicely, no obvious signs of understeer. And the Camaro, Steve, is one of these cars that's got fantastic straight line speed, and at a circuit like Spa, that's going to come in handy, isn't it, for getting past with the long sections between Eau Rouge and Les Combes, and obviously from the Paul Frere curve up towards the bus stop. It's really going to enable you to make moves if you're slightly lower down the grid.
Yeah, and I think if you're that poor car that's defending against it, it's intimidating, because you can certainly hear it when it's coming up behind you, and you can hear every throttle input when it's close enough. So when we talk about drivers putting pressure on the car in front, I think you've got very much an advantage there with that car, because not only do you fill the mirrors, but it fills your eardrums as well. I think you'll agree, having experienced it yourself.
Well, if you're in a Ginetta and you see this thing coming up behind you, it's certainly scary, isn't it? But yes, as we see Ian Thompson now into the bus stop to finish his flying lap, 2.8 seconds off the pole. As it stands, let's see if he can improve in the Camaro. Gets a nice clean exit through the clunky bus stop. I think it's such a tricky way to end what is a fast and flowing lap. He does improve, but it's not enough to see him move up the standings still in 18th place, with Arjen van der Linden now attempting to improve his time. His best qualifying position is 21st so far this season, which came in the wet at Brands Hatch. Let's see if he can better that, and he does at the moment. He jumps up to 20th, an improvement on his time, which is great to see in the final 7 minutes. So he's now up inside the top 20 in number 14, Aston Martin, with Jan Paul Eikelenboom now in the 31 Mercedes, looking pretty handy at the moment. Nothing too messy as he heads through Les Carmen down towards Bruxelles. We're seeing the order change in this final section of the qualifying session, and actually I've noticed, Steve, the track has gone back to damp, so we're seeing that typically Ardennes weather playing out here this evening, with conditions changing, and that can really provide opportunity, but also could mess you up if you're out there on a time and the conditions change. You're almost stuck in no man's land.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just getting a little bit excited there as I'm privy to watching all the timings relatives all going green, which hadn't happened for 5 minutes or so. Everybody, and I was just looking and I thinking, has the track gone to wet? Yes, it had, and maybe they've all got wet tyres on. I'm not sure. Maybe it got wet enough to make the wet tyres work properly. But as you said that, then it went back to damp, and some of those green times have disappeared back to red, although this man Malott is still 4/10 up on his time, and an improvement of 4/10 will get him up into potentially the top, certainly a couple of places, up to 7th maybe if he can carry it, but he has just lost a bit of time there riding the curbs, and that's what they're going to have to watch out for, Tim, isn't it? Those curbs, because at Spa, some of the curbs, they are very much part of the racing line, and some people will, and you can get away with taking very, very wide lines through them. You can use a lot of curb, but in these conditions, it's a very, very brave man, as we see Malott there just running way onto the AstroTurf as well, and the wrong sort of input at the wrong time on that stuff, and it's game over.
We saw him make a mistake through Stavelot on a previous lap, and he had the exact same slide on this tour of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, so I wonder if really he hasn't made any benefit on his time. But let's see as he crosses the line, 1.7 seconds slower, and again, yes, he doesn't improve, so a lot of time lost in that final sector. He was nearly a second slower than his best time, but at the moment, as we head into the final 4.5 minutes, it's Kroll who leads the way still, ahead of Michael Hutman, 1.5 tenths back, such as the margins between these drivers. Then it's Sem Spenkelink, a further 3,000th back. He's still in pit lane, not electing to go out and set another time yet, with Luke Pound, the driver, on screen at the moment, in 4th. Then it's Alexander Delors, Dimitri Schenk in 6th, ahead of Dennis Berkman. Garlin, the new driver this evening, in 8th, Nicholas Malott in 9th, and Patrick Tractor rounding out your top 10, with the top 7 drivers separated by 1.2 seconds, but around a 7-kilometre circuit. To see the top 20 drivers within 3 seconds in these conditions just shows you how close the racing is here in the Sim Racing Hub International GT4 Championship. Luke Pound rounds Stavelot, does a better job of it than Malott, if I do say so, but let's see if he can carry the speed through the Paul Frere curve and up this climb. You can't see it really on the cameras, as I mentioned before, but the car is really heaving its way up this hill towards Blanchimont and into the final corners at the bus stop. Gets the car turned in nicely, a very clean line through there. Hopefully that wasn't too much of the car over the white line, otherwise he'll have his lap validated. He drops the anchor into the bus stop, gets turned in nicely to the first apex, and the car switches over to the second very cleanly. And on the run to the line, Pound stays to the right hand side and he improves by 0.2, but it's not enough again to improve his position. Pound still locked into 4th place, as I think we've just seen a driver disconnect, or that was I think the driver has just dropped, so Pound's gone up to third, or maybe that was a delay in the timing screen. It looks like, yes, Spenkelink has maybe dropped out of the session, which we saw happen at Imola. So that'll be very disappointing if Sem is unable to compete this evening. So the order changes. The top three now: Krul, Hutman and Pound, with Delors fourth, Dimitri Schenk up to fifth. So a little bit of a change in the top order, and with 2.25 minutes remaining, drivers are going to be on their final or penultimate laps of the Spa Grand Prix circuit. Callum Boyd rounding the curb Paul Frere and beginning the climb back towards the bus stop.
Half a second up as well at the moment.
So he is finding time in this final few moments of the session, which is great to see. We did think that maybe some drivers would build that confidence. You see Sem has connected, so he's retaken that third place, so hopefully he can hold on to it. But Boyd gets wide on the run through Blanchimont and just runs out over the curb. Likely to see his lap invalidated. I wonder if he'll complete it and go again with 1.5 minutes remaining on the clock. So it's really, Steve, it's do or die anyway round here at Spa-Francorchamps, and in these conditions with 1.5 minutes to go, you've got to leave it all out there on the track.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Boyd there has improved a little bit on his time. He's at 2.1 seconds off pole. P13 for him at the moment. Evan Natafas, when I put my teeth back in, is 4 tenths up at the moment in 12th place. So 4 tenths again. This is going to be a good improvement for Evan if he can maintain this. You just see him maybe a little bit wide into the first part of the bus stop there. He has lost a little bit of time, but he's going to carry an advantage over, so he's going to improve. As long as the lap was clean, we're going to see an improvement for Natafas. Maybe that lap wasn't clean.
Well, it looks like it might have been invalidated. His last is showing us 4 tenths faster, but he hasn't moved on the timing screens. He remains in 12th place, but he did cross the line before the checkered flag, so if Evan wants to improve, and he knows he can do, he's gone 4 tenths faster. Let's see if he can do it again on this final opportunity. Nicolas Malot, though, rounding the Pouhon curve down the hill towards the Piff Path. Let's see if he can eliminate that mistake at Stavelot that he's done twice now, that's cost him time, and valuable time indeed, because as the order stands, an improvement of, 3 tenths would see him take 8th, an improvement of around 8 tenths would see him jump up into the top 5. So let's see if he can keep this lap clean. Here it is at the right hand, where he has made a mistake by getting wide over the curb. He does it, but he manages to keep the car facing the right direction this time. So hopefully that will be enough for Malot. I wonder if he is up on his time,
3 tenths,
Steve.
Tim, 3 tenths.
3 tenths. So he has improved. That could see him take that 8th place from Garlin in the 88 Audi as he climbs up the hill through Blanchimont. He needs to keep the end of this lap clean, not invalidate it by running off the track. A nice clean run there through Blanchimont. Gets the car straightened up for the breaking point at the bus stop, drops the anchor at about 150 metres plus and gets the thing slowed down through the right and the left. The Cayman very agile, very happy to change direction in the middle of that chicane, and he stays right on the run to the line. And Malot crosses the line to improve, but only just, Steve. Must have lost some time in that final sector because he didn't jump up the order as we predicted. But again, a very close qualifying session. The top 4 drivers, Steve, separated by 2 tenths of a second. So the margins are close, and the rain has definitely levelled out some of these drivers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we very much so that Malot, I was watching obviously with you there on and looking at the timings, and it was those last few corners, he was being cautious, he was trying to keep it tidy, but when you've only got a gain of maybe 2 or 3 tenths, it's very easy to lose that time, and he did indeed. You know, there was a tenth disappearing here and there, and then by the time he went through the bus stop, it had all gone away from him. So you know, the improvement was very small. So yeah, it's difficult, but that's it, that's qualifying over with. It's been a very interesting qualifying session. The usual protagonists are at the top, dare I say, you know, with Kroll, Hutman and Spenkelink taking the top 3 spots, with Pound in 4th. So it's going to be an interesting start to this race. We've got some very good, very seasoned drivers there. So let's see what we can do. I'm really looking forward to this, to be honest. I think this is going to be a cracker of a race if this wet weather carries over into the race. So
this evening's event, we've had our half an hour qualifying session, Now we turn our minds towards a 60-minute event where drivers are required to make one mandatory stop. So they will all be required to head to pit lane at any time of their choosing across the 60 minutes from the lights going green to the checkered flag. And that's thrown up some interesting strategy calls. We've seen drivers opting to pit early, get out of the traffic, get out of the competition and the mayhem, and try and run some clean times and clean laps in free air. We have seen some drivers actually make a late stop work. Springs to mind is Patrick Tractor Suzuki, pitted a lot later than a number of the other drivers and managed to climb up the order from outside the top 20 to finish 9th, which is his best finish of the season so far, which he managed to do again. Repeat performance, 23rd to 9th at Imola. And Steve, if the track is wet, we could see the need to pit. You know, we haven't seen too much degradation from the tyres. We haven't seen drivers complaining about tyres going off as such. But if we see conditions change, if we see that shift from wet to damp or even all the way through to dry, drivers are going to have to be thinking about when's the best time to head to pit lane and get some new rubber.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that as you touched on there, that the pit strategy, they can come in at any point and get rid of that pit stop. But I think in these wet conditions, it's going to very much depend on traffic, because if you're out of position, if you pit early and you come back out and you're behind slower cars, the difference, the lap time difference could be even greater in these wet conditions than it would be normally in the dry. So I think we will see maybe if they don't pick up damage or there's no change in conditions where they need to pit early for adjustments, change of tyres or whatever, I think we may see some of the guys going longer just to avoid coming back out in any sort of traffic. And that's where the long pit stop, if you're not battling with someone up at the front and you do that long first stint, most of the time that's going to work for you, because you're going to stay out there, you're not in traffic, you're not battling, and then when you do pit, you're going to come back out more or less into your relative position, if that makes sense, where you would be anyway, without having to battle anyone, shall we say, further down the order that's maybe going to hold you up for a few laps and cost you time, as we've seen that happen many times in the past. So yeah, I think the strategy is going to be very, very important tonight, but the main thing is to keep it clean and consistent, I think.
So many of you actually in the YouTube chat enjoying the action so far this evening. And if you are liking what you're seeing on screen tonight, please feel free to like the stream on YouTube. Very much appreciated by everyone here at SRHI. And indeed, if you want to see some more of this GT4 action, or indeed any of the other championships that SRHI run, then please subscribe to the YouTube channel and you'll be kept up to date by hitting the notification bell of any events that are being streamed live, so you can keep across all the action and all the series going on here at Sim Racing Hub International. Thank you to Oliver Anderson and Benjamin Simmers who are tuned in, as well as TW Games Walters and Tom Mear who are enjoying the action. And Oliver Anderson is saying that he's putting his money on a wreck at Les Combes, and that's, well, Steve, they've got to get to Les Combes in the first place, because the start line is down the hill towards Eau Rouge, and that's definitely a hot action point, isn't it? And especially when the race is getting started down the hill, that's the first obstacle for drivers to tackle, and they're not doing it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? If you're at the front, you're going to want to hit the hammer hard and get down there and try and get clear, and just sort of put your trust in the couple of guys that are around you, that they're going to follow you through and not make any silly moves. But if you're mid-pack, you're obviously, no disrespect to any of the drivers on the grid, but if you're mid-pack, you're putting your trust in a lot more people, and there's a lot more people maybe feeling they've got something to gain if you're just being a little bit too careful, and that's when the incidents occur. You get some people going steady, thinking, you know what, I'm going to take this easy, I'm going to watch what I'm doing, and then you've got the hot potatoes that think that they can maybe make up a few extra positions and take advantage of the situation, and definitely through Eau Rouge, up through Radion, I think we might have some incidents there. There's a couple of hot spots around this track that if they start running 2 and 3 wide, with these conditions, running wide onto the AstroTurf could be an issue for a few of them, and thankfully some of the corners have got quite a wide runoff, but it is going to cost some of the drivers some places. We just seem to be having a few issues at the moment with the server not forwarded onto the session, so please bear with us, and we will do our best to entertain you and keep talking at the moment, but they're just in the pits, I think, at the moment, trying to wait for this shower to pass over. I'm not quite sure when we're going to get racing. I think it is a server issue at the moment. It seems to be stuck and it won't forward onto the race.
So a minor server issue, so we'll try and keep you entertained, or something entertain me. I'm definitely adding hot potatoes to the Steve Proudly Racing Dictionary. A very good one from you to describe a driver who sends it a little bit too early into a race. I think is that an accurate definition, Steve?
That's a polite way. It's a polite way of putting it, but when I'm behind the steering wheel and somebody sends it, that's not what I call them.
I was going to say, do you qualify as a hot potato, Steve? Or are you more of a cooler mashed potato who might take their time?
Mate, yeah. To be fair, yeah, I'm a steadier. When it comes to turn one, I do lose positions because I do tend to be a bit too cautious, and I'm not the fastest driver out there, so very rarely do I get to the front end of the grid. So yeah, plenty of experience, sort of down the bottom end of the top 10, outside the top 10, dealing with hot potatoes, shall we say?
Yes. Yeah. Well, we say that these early moves in the race can be decisive in building your race. If you can get past a couple of drivers, if you can just get yourself up ahead of the action, the mayhem, the drama, and into a nice clean spot, that can really build your race from there onwards. But you've also got to consider that it's 60 minutes. Although it's almost classified as a sprint race, I mean, it's almost a mini endurance event with the pit stop as well. You've really got to get your race off to a clean start and start gaining those positions as the time ticks on. It can be important to get a good start and make positions, but we so often say it, Steve, you can't win the race at the first corner, but you can certainly lose it. And at a track like Spa-Francorchamps, with the Eau Rouge being the first corner, that's certainly the case.
Yeah, absolutely. You can very much lose it, and like you say, if you start picking up damage, that obviously it's going to cost you lap time. Then you're going to make the decision when you go into the pits: is it costing you enough lap time to warrant you a repair, which is going to keep you in the pits longer? So you're just on a lose-lose situation by trying to push too hard, and put your trust in everyone around you that they're going to just make way for you when you throw it up the inside, sort of thing. So I think it's caution is the better part in these races. Like you say, it's not quite an endurance race, but I definitely wouldn't categorise these as a sprint race when they're 60 minutes long and there's a pit stop thrown in there for good measure. It's not a lights to flag race, is it? It's not a sprint race. There is a pit stop in there, and I think once you throw a pit stop into the race and it's over that 30 minutes mark, I would say it's a bit more of a strategic race as well. Not an endurance race, as I say, but it's definitely not a sprint race for me, isn't this one? It's a good tactical race where they're going to have to be put their thinking caps on. They're going to have to get 3, 4, 5 laps into the race, which is quite a chuck in Spa. Obviously, with the lap times we've been seeing, it's a long way into the race, but they're going to have to get that far into the race to then start to think about where do they want to pit, who's around them. Who are they battling with? Who realistically are they battling with in the championship? Also, that's now at this point in the championship, I think they will have started looking around at the guys who are close to them on the points, and they'll have their targets out there that won't necessarily be the cars that are around them at that time. They will maybe, if they see they're ahead of their closest rivals, it might be a time to just ease off a little bit and bring it home where you are and keep your advantage over the cars behind you. So lots to think about for the guys, and some of them will be thinking about strategies and some of them will just send it.
Well, actually, in the YouTube chat, Benjamin Simmers has sent a potato surrounded by 2 fire emojis, so he's already picking up on the hot potato terminology. So I think if anyone sees some hot potato action going on this evening, then they need to drop that in the relevant chat, and we can see if we can highlight some some sense early on. But
I think we'll replace for next stream. We may replace the replay transition on the stream, and we'll just bring up a picture of a hot potato, and everybody will know what's coming next.
They'll know what's happened. They'll know exactly what's happened. Well, as you say there, Steve, we talk about this strategy aspect. We saw last time at Imola how crucial picking the right time to stop was, getting out of the battle. I believe there was a train of cars from memory. It was the likes of Nicholas Malott and Michael Hutman, and I think Dennis Werkman and potentially Sem Spenkelink were involved. But we saw this train of cars. You get stuck behind other drivers, or maybe you're all just at an equal pace. And some people opted to pit early, get out of the traffic, and hopefully set some clean laps and some clean times and jump the drivers in front. Likewise, we saw some go longer in an attempt to extend their stint, make the best of a slightly clearer track, with some of the others hitting pit lane. But it's not all about strategy exactly, it's about the execution of it, because so often we see drivers picking up silly penalties, and you can spend all the time doing the calculations in your head whilst driving around, which is tricky enough as it is. But just one slight error of hitting the pit lane speed limiter a little bit too late, you can be handed a stop-go or a drive-through. And what was originally a fantastic strategy decision could come back to bite you.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, absolutely. We are now on the grid, and I am just going to get my magic Segway out, and I'm going to go for a little bit of a grid walk, and let's have a look at these cars on the track as they line up this evening.
Well, Steve proudly then heads out on the Sim Sport Solutions Segways at full tilt up the hill towards the start line.
It's a steep one, Tim. It's a steep one.
It is a steep one. Keep that angle. Keep leaning forward, Steve. Don't have any incidents. I don't think we have much budget to pay for your hospital bill. So anyway, up the hill, there's Luke Pound on your right Has side. Then it's Delore in the 49 came in on the left with Dimitri Schenk. The highest placed Janetta in the number 8 in 6th place. Then it's Dennis Workman alongside with Gallin on his first appearance in the series. 88 Audi is in 8th position, so lots of 8s going on there. Nicholas Malott 9th place alongside Boyd in the 23 McLaren. Then Patrick Tractor is in 11th place alongside Yannick Ballanduk, who had a very strong showing at Imola last time out. He grabbed the podium from 6th on the grid. Found another gear, Steve, picking up speed up the hill. And there's Denise Pope on your left-hand side. Then there's the Caymans of Hop, and then the Aston Martin of Mosley Arvidsson. Then the Camaro of Ian Thompson alongside Van der Linden. Then we have Suke Verva and the bright pink Aston Martin of Daniel Herkstra. Then Willems in 23rd position. And towards the back of the grid, we can see Baukamp there in the 919 BMW. One of the drivers has head to pit lane. That's the number 84. So missing from the grid was Mikael Hutman. And in fact, he is in pit lane and unable to take the start from 2nd place. So that might make the job slightly easier for Tim Krul as he heads down the hill towards Eau Rouge on this formation lap, but even easier when the lights go green. He won't have to compete with a rather large Camaro alongside him on the run down the hill. But Steve, this formation lap, yes, it's a formation lap, and yes, it's annoying, long drag round back to the start-finish line to get things going. But in these conditions, you're starting to maybe have a look at how the track is out there and get some very much important pressure and heat into your tyres.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just going to be finding the grip levels as much as you can at this speed, finding any standing water, not wanting the tyres to go too cold. Obviously, you've got no tyre blankets with the GT4s. You sort of arrive at the track as they are, so they will try to start swerving and putting some heat into the tyres and just as importantly into the brakes, because as long as you don't overheat the brakes, obviously, but you want some temperature in there because that all contributes to keeping the heat in the tyres as well, keeping the brakes efficient at the right working temperature. The first few laps are going to be very, very interesting. Some of the cars and some of the drivers will get things warmed up a little bit more efficiently than some of the other cars, and we might just see some people maybe pick the pace up once they get 2 or 3 laps in as everything comes up to working temperature, because working temperatures equate to working pressures in the tyres as well, which is just if not more important than the temperatures. So it's going to be interesting as we see Kroll's just extended a bit of a gap out there. The other guys are holding it up as he's obviously put the hammer down a bit to try and get some heat through those rear tyres of that Porsche. And it'd be interesting to see what happens when they bring it round and they get the go, to see who has done the job efficiently and has got the best amount of heat they can into these cars.
Well, 28 drivers are currently taking the formation lap, and as Tim Kroll rounded the Pouhon corner, the final car of Daniel Balkamp in the 919 BMW hadn't even rounded the hairpin at Bruxelles, such as the length of this train of cars and the number of competitors out on track this evening. But track space is often not at a premium here at Spa, unlike the circuits like Brands Hatch and Imola that we've already visited. So if you can find some clear air, it's a lot more easy to come by at a circuit over 7 kilometres in length. But Kroll bringing the pack round through the bottom part of the circuit, through Stavelot and the curb pull Frere, warming up his 933 Porsche 718 Cayman GT4. There's a KTM behind, that's Sem Spenkelink, who was ferocious in the wet conditions at Brands Hatch. So look to see him getting some hot laps down this evening and showing some strong pace. The track's actually changed to damp now, Steve. So we are seeing that even on the formation lap, conditions are changing. We're likely to see that fluctuate throughout the rest of this 60-minute race.
Yeah, I mean, the damp conditions could turn wet again. I don't think they're going to dry out any drier than damp. Obviously, it's looking like it's forecast to carry on raining and potentially maybe pick up a little bit as the race goes on. But obviously, as the cars start to disperse some of the water, I don't think we're going to see a dry line, but I think we will see a racing line emerging. And it'll be interesting to see how these guys manage some of the tyres. I don't think it's as difficult managing the tyres in the GT4s as it is the GT3s. You're not quite dealing with as much power and sort of downforce, but let's just see what sort of a job Tim Kroll makes of this start now, as he's bringing the cars round and they're going to start lining up alongside him and get this race underway.
Well, vacant space left alongside the white Porsche Cayman, with the absence of Hutman, who's in the pit lane, as they all line up across the Grand Prix start-finish straight, but they'll turn right at La Source and head down the hill where they will receive the green flag. Demian De Kaiser in the chat saying, do we wait for the snowstorm to be over? No snow tonight here at Spa-Francorchamps, but I'm pretty sure if the admins had it their own way, they would be making sure it was snowy this evening just for that extra challenge. But it's still rainy here. It's still a challenge. It's Spa-Francorchamps, one of the most difficult circuits in the world, but loved and adored by many. And Tim Kroll will certainly be smiling as he heads down the hill to take the green flag from pole position behind Sem Spenkelink and Luke Pound. As they roll towards the start line, they go green on the run down the hill towards the Eau Rouge corner. It looks like Kroll got a fantastic start. Spenkelink having to chop across the nose of Pound as they all file through. Look at this fantastic shot at the top of Radion. They seem to all get through rather cleanly, and it's Kroll who leads away from Spenkelink, Pound. It looks like Delors coming under pressure from Schenk in the number 8 Ginetta, and Kroll's done exactly what he needed to do, get up the hill and get away from this angry pack of GT4s. Spenkelink coming under fire from Pound into Les Combes, as that's Garlin that goes off to the left-hand side. He'll have to be careful when he rejoins to not cause any drama when he gets back on the racing surface. Looks like he has done so cleanly. Spenkelink defending from Pound on the way down into Bruxelles, opts to take the inside line, try and make Pound go the long way around. He's unable to at that occasion. So as they down the hill towards the X corner and on towards Pouhon, it's Kroll that leads Spenkelink, Pound, Delors, Berkman in 5th. Then it's Garlin up from 8th. He's now in 6th. I'm pretty sure he's dropped a little bit further back following that slight run off the track. Then we have Malott, Schenk, Valenduc and Boyd rounding out your top 10, heading round through this first attempt at these corners into the Piff Path. But Steve Kroll did exactly what he needed to do there, didn't he? Get a very clean start and scamper away through Eau Rouge and up the hill towards the drama hotspot at Les Combes.
Yeah, absolutely. He just got his head down. He got a good start. He had that blank space at the side of him, which allowed him really just to take whatever line he wanted to do, and really to to drive the line he wanted, which is a big bonus in these conditions. It allows you to to concentrate on where you want to go, and not really worry about where anyone else is, because they were all in his rear view mirror and they had each other to worry about as well. So I think all in all, yeah, it couldn't have got any better for Tom Krul, and he made the most of it. It's okay being given these opportunities, but you still got to get the job done, and he's definitely done that, and he's extended that gap out now to albeit just about a second. So that's a great first lap from Krul.
It looks like Spenklink is already starting to bridge the gap between the Aston Martin of Luke Pound and the Porsche Cayman that leads the way of Tim Krul. The gap now down to 6/10, so the KTM certainly getting a wiggle on towards the end of this first lap. Nearly 3 minutes have elapsed. It's crazy to think that these drivers will probably just get over 20 laps completed here at Spa-Francorchamps. Here's Evan Atafas in 11th with Denise Pope for company behind. Then it's Jan-Paul Eikelenboom in the 31 Mercedes, with Garlin, who drops all the way down to 14th in that off-track skirmish through the Les Combes corners. As they climb up the hill, Frank Hopp in the number 5 Porsche being challenged from behind, and here's Ian Thompson in the 666 Camaro. He's got well, it looks like there was Hoekstra behind him, and I couldn't quite see the bright pink Aston Martin just there, so I wonder if there's been some more drama on the run up the hill to the bus stop and then back down towards Eau Rouge. But here is Hopp in the number 5, in behind Garlin. There's a train already forming here behind Jan-Paul Eikelenboom in the 31 Mercedes as they head down the hill towards Bruxelles. Crucially at the front, actually, Steve, whether or not it's just the pace of Luke Pound, he's not letting Spenklink get away. I wonder whether we're already starting to see how these GT4 cars generate their performance on different parts of the circuit, because Spenklink is looking mighty through the twisty stuff. I wonder if that Aston Martin just claws some time back in the flat-out sections.
Absolutely. I mean, the reason I jumped back to this battle was because Luke Pound was really putting some pressure on Sem just before I cut to that, and he's now dropped back, as you say, in this sector. So it could well be, as you alluded to there, that the cars are just stronger at different parts of the track, and although Spenklink seems to have given himself some breathing space at the moment and closing up on Krul, who just makes a mistake there, and definitely advantage Spenklink coming out of that corner. It'll be interesting to see what goes on now, because this is a three-way battle very much, as it's looking like Pound is going to try and go around the outside of Spenklink. If he can hold it there, and it's a big if he can't, it would have given him a good run down towards the bus stop, but Spenklink managed to just keep the power down, and it looked like Luke Pound actually just lift a little bit, and Spenklink's going to defend that position into the bus stop. Tim Krul's gathered it all back up, but everybody's a heck of a lot closer now, and Spenklink now it's going to go alongside Krul, put him under some pressure as they're going to head round into turn 1, but he's having to fall back in. That Porsche just seems to have the advantage on the squirt out of the corner, as it were, but Spenklink now looking to go around the outside. That's not going to work, and he's got no contact behind, and that's Luke Pound, and is that Workman?
I believe that's Malott. I think it might have been Malott in the number 6 Cayman, facing the wrong way as they run down the hill. Spenklink looking up the inside into Eau Rouge, can't get the job done. Yeah, it was Krul that ran deep into the final, the curve at Paul Frere, and then he ran deep into the bus stop, which allowed Spenklink to close back up. They were nearly 3 wide heading into La Source, and it was too many numbers really, 6 really, trying to funnel down into 1. It didn't quite work out further back, and it looked like Luke Pound just got turned around by Malott as they both dropped down the order slightly. Pound now into 5th, so he's recovered nicely. Actually, sorry, it was Workman in the number 4, as we can see him tumbling down the timing tower on the left-hand side of the screen. But that's really starting to show that Krul's made a couple of mistakes now that have cost him time and cost him positions. We head to a replay, and we can see across the line the speed of that Aston Martin in a straight line is allowing him to close up on Spenklink, who opts to tuck in behind Krul but look further back and that is Workman going to the inside through the exit of La Source, and it's almost 3-1 didn't go, with Delors close at hand as well in the 49 Porsche Cayman. Just a racing instant there, I think, a little bit of an opportunistic move from Workman, really, to try and get up the inside of Pound. So let's see how things pan out now. Pound's still in 5th, but Workman's tumbled down the order to 21st. So a long way to recover, but plenty of time to do so, with 53 minutes still remaining in this race this evening. But Spenkeling gets a great run once again out of the curve Paul Frere, and on the run up the hill towards the bus stop, he's tucked into the slipstream. It's going to be difficult to make a move here at Blanchimont, but he'll try and set Tim Kroll up at the bus stop. They both run over the green painted surface on the right, both of them missing the apex by almost half a car or car's width there with understeer, and then into the bus stop. Spenkeling unable to make the move. It looks like the Cayman, it's gone deep. Kroll again running wide at the bus stop. He opts to dip through the tyre barrier. Pound does the same, but actually chooses to rejoin the track surface cleanly. We're seeing that Kroll, that's really his bogey corner at the moment. He's making mistakes there, and one too many, Steve. We're likely to see him lose that lead position. Spenkeling will be ready to pounce next time by, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, well, that's it. We said, didn't we, that at the beginning of the race, it's all about consistency. It's all about not making mistakes, and we've seen one or two of the guys now making a few mistakes. It's still early days. It's 51 minutes and 40 seconds just over remaining, so there's still plenty of time to recover. But if you get someone like Spenkeling past you who doesn't make many mistakes, even in these conditions, it's very, very hard to recover, and it's going to be hard to battle back. So we've got Luke Pound dropping down. He's lost a place now to Malott again, and it just, Spenkeling looked a little bit deep and a bit hot on the brakes there, but also Kroll looked to turn in a little bit too early, and for me took a bit too much curb there, and that cost him some time as well. As we can see, it looks like Valenduk's battling hard behind as well. So there's a few battles going on at the moment, and it's all getting a little bit lively and a little bit interesting.
Well, Valenduk is the real beneficiary of all of this action so far, climbing from 11th place on the grid up to 4th, so a gain of 7 positions in the first 9 minutes and 10 seconds of the event here tonight. So the BMW number 301 really flying in this early stage of the race. Pound dropping back to 6th. He's now in behind Malott in the Cayman, so let's see if he can get the job done there against the number 6 driver, who has had some strong performances this season. Like I say, 2 podiums, second at both Suzuka and Imola. The latter at Imola obviously being a win in the pro category, so a win in class. So he has got the pace to get the job done. At the moment he's in 5th place, and he's going to be looking to pass and improve his position. He's got 1.4 seconds up to Yannick Valenduk, but here's Spenkeling getting the run again on the exit of the curve Paul Frere, but on the long drag up the hill towards the bus stop and through Blanchimont. It looks like that Cayman's just got the speed. Well, Kroll getting all over the right hand side there, and again on the exit of Blanchimont. So on entry and exit, he was 4 wheels off the track, and Spenkeling doing his best to close in. Kroll looks to have bettered his braking position compared to last time. He doesn't run on, so that's an improvement here on lap 3 as they head up towards the start finish line. Spenkeling's got a fantastic cutback on the exit of the bus stop, side by side up towards La Source. Spenkeling on the left hand side, Kroll on the right as they go into the hairpin. Kroll defends his line. Spenkeling tries to go the long way round. He's still there and uses that high line in the wet to get alongside and stay alongside. But on the run down the hill, it looks like Kroll's just going to be in the better track position, and with the speed of that Cayman, just pulls past the KTM as they run up the hill through Eau Rouge and across the curb at the top at Raidillon. Fantastic helicopter shot here. You can see the drivers keeping their foot pinned to the floor as they climb the hill towards Les Comps, and Kroll just able to defend his position, but rather leaning on the advantages of that Cayman in a straight line to hold off Spenkeling in the KTM. As behind, Pound is trying to make the move on Nicolas Malott. They've closed up, and indeed they're closing up on Yannick Valenduk in the 301 BMW, who's in 4th place. And wow, look at that, Steve. I'm looking at the
Oh,
time.
Pound's just
Pound
made a
makes
mistake there,
slight error. Sorry, just I looked at my laptop. I missed the exciting drifteroo of that Aston Martin Vantage. But Patrick Tractor doing a very strong job at the moment. He's up to 7th. As we see Spenkelink 4 wheels off the track, trying to go around the outside of Kroll through the no-name or Rick's corner, down the hill towards Peel, and he'll have a challenge going around the outside there. Both drivers giving each other plenty of room. Some very fair racing. If Spenkelink can hold on, it will become the inside into the first part.
He's got it done.
But he's got it done. What a fantastic move. And Steve, through a corner like Peel, and you're holding on anyway in the dry to go around the outside in the wet. Spenkelink really pulling something out of the hat there.
Well, for me, that was a great move from Spenkelink, but Tim Kroll, you know, I mean, that great respect shown from him. It would have been very, very easy for him to drift out just a little bit and rub in his racing sometimes and push Sem just onto the curbs enough that he had to lift, but he didn't. He left the racing room. Sem was brave enough and put his trust in him to go around the outside like that, and that's job done for the KTM. I know the Porsche's got the legs on it, but Sem now he's already pulling out a little bit of a gap, so it'll be very, very interesting now to see if this gap ebbs and flows as they go around this circuit now, or whether Spenkelink can actually manage to pull a sustainable gap.
Well, we saw Spenkelink set the fastest lap of the race on the previous tour of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, so let's see if he improves in this next time when he's got clean air and he hasn't got Tim Kroll's Cayman in the way, if you like, as we head with just over 46.5 minutes to go. There's been plenty of action so far, but still a long way to go in this one. It could all change. It could all change on the last lap. And as for Luke Pound, it did all change on the last lap at Suzuka. He ran out of fuel. And I'm sure that's a mistake he won't want to make again, costing him some valuable points at round 2. He's in a strong position at the moment, in 6th place, which would be his best finish of the season so far if he can hold on to it. As we see, Dimitri Schenk in the number 8 Ginetta, no longer the highest placed Ginetta. Patrick Tractor in the 313, bright orange Ginetta G55 has managed to jump the number 8 black and green Ginetta on these opening few laps. So we see a number of drivers heading to pit lane. I wonder if those are either instant related or indeed they're making a strategic decision. Here we have Denise Pope. Sorry,
good start from Denise Pope. She's made it up to 8th place. I can't quite remember where she qualified, but it was in the teens.
15th.
15th was it? Yeah, so great qualifying from her. But she's really managed to keep it on the black stuff and take advantage of other people's maybe their mistakes, because she's definitely now into a solid 8th place, which is going to be one. If she can, a long way to go, 45 minutes, but she can bring it home somewhere near that. That's got to be a season best for her. As we go back to Luke Pound now, who's really putting some pressure on Malott, who is equally putting pressure on Valenduk. So another three-way scrap here now for what is technically 4th position.
Well, a three-way fight indeed for P4. Valenduk now being challenged by Malott. He tries to go around the outside on the exit of the pit path. A little bit of paint exchange through the left-hander, and it looks like Malott's got the job done into the Stavolo curve. He's up the inside and through cleanly, but Pound wants in on the action here. He can see an opportunity to benefit and improve his position, and all of this is allowing Patrick Tractor to close in behind as Pound gets out of the spray there, maybe just showing his nose to the BMW, which is rapid in a straight line. That has really closed the gap up to Malott. So I wonder if Yannick Valenduk in the 301 can just keep clean through the twisty stuff. He'll have it easy past the Porsche in a straight line. Pound tries to go to the outside. There's not much room there. Opts to stick out of it and maybe live to fight another day through the bus stop as they round the final curve and over the start-finish straight. But Yannick Valenduk really tried to fight back there through the Stavolo curve and through Curve Paul Frere. The BMW looks to have some fantastic speed in a straight line, which can benefit you at a circuit like Spa-Francorchamps with the long drag from La Source through Eau Rouge and up towards Les Combes. And I said keep an eye on Sem Spenkelink's pace on that previous lap, and without Tim Kroll in his windscreen, he's gone incredibly quickly. Actually, a 2:38.9 is by far the fastest lap of the race so far this evening. So Spenklink has the pace and he's pulled now a 2.1 second gap as Pound tucked in behind the BMW of Valenduk, looking to make a move up the hill towards Les Combes. He goes to the outside, but the BMW looks to have enough speed in a straight line. Valenduk, though, goes deep. He's off the track. He's over the speed bumps there through Les Combes. And that should allow Pound through. He's rejoined the circuit rather safely, so props to Yannick for keeping it clean as he rejoined the track. But Pound, he wants to get through and will feel rather hard done by, I think, by the number 301 rejoining and keeping that position by going off the track. It looks like, as Malott is able to just scamper off the road a little bit, it's Pound who's looking to make the move, Steve, and he's going to have to get it done soon because he's losing time here. You know, we saw him up inside the podium positions. He didn't look uncomfortable there. It looked like he had the pace to challenge the likes of Delors and Malott, but at the moment, he's just stuck in behind this BMW. Yeah,
absolutely. He's doing his best to try and make something of it, but yeah, like you say, the BMW is really making it hard for him, although he's making mistakes, and it's looking like he may get around the outside there. They're going to go too wide through that one, and it's going to give Pound the inside line now, and I think that is job done for Luke Pound, which I don't think it's over. Valenduk's been making some mistakes, but equally Luke Pound was a lot higher up at the start of this race, and it's mistakes that have cost him track positions, and that is why he's fighting currently for 5th position. So you know, I think if the BMW of Valenduk can keep the pressure on Pound, I don't think this battle is going to be over. As we see the BMW now coming back at him, but he's going to surely run very, very wide there, and he's going to risk an incident. He's going to have to lift and fall back in, and indeed he does. But we see Luke Pound there getting a little bit loose just on the exit, taking a lot of the curb, a lot of the AstroTurf, and the car just protesting ever so slightly, but he managed to keep it all in the right direction and get back on track, and he's still in that 5th position. But as you said, Patrick Tractor doing a fantastic job in what is, shall we say, an underpowered car at this circuit. He's really closed that gap up, and Patrick Tractor is going to very much be battling for at least P6 if these laps continue like this, because that BMW of Valenduk, it seems to be protesting quite a lot coming out of the corners as he's trying to get the power down. It's getting out of shape, it's costing him time. That Ginetta is all over the back of them almost.
So it looks like Patrick Tractor now has the pace as these two, Luke Pound and Valenduk, squabble. Actually, Valenduk cuts across the inside of Radion almost completely there, so there's a couple of strikes against his name in terms of corner cuts, I'm sure of it, and those will begin to add up. We've got, well, 2/3 of the race still to go, so Valenduk will have to be careful in terms of managing his adventures off the racing surface in order to not pick up a very costly penalty here at Spa-Francorchamps, with the pit lane beginning at the bus stop and running all the way through round La Source and down the hill towards Eau Rouge, and drivers actually rejoin the circuit on the straight between Radion and up towards Les Combes. So it's a very lengthy pit lane indeed. You don't want to pick up a drive-through because it will cost you a number of positions and a lot of time. Valenduk getting all kinds of crossed up there on the exit of the X curve. That's going to cost him some time. He's falling back into the clutches of Patrick Tractor, and it's almost like the straight line speed of this BMW is doing just enough to keep him ahead, but through the curves again, Tractor able to close up massively on the run down through Pouhon and into the Piv Path, where we've seen Valenduk has been passed twice, but again he runs wide. Another mistake from the BMW driver, and that allows Patrick Tractor through. He will not need a second question about that one. He swoops through, gets the job done. Up to P6, Patrick Tractor, who started this race in 10th, climbing the order, and there's still positions to be gained with Luke Pound 1.2 seconds ahead, and then Nicolas Malott a further 1.3 ahead of him. So the top order, although they're stretching out a little, expected to all close back up with the relative paces, as like you said, Denise Pope in 8th place at the moment, currently leading the AM category, but she does have Boyd in the 23 McLaren less than a second further back. And as we see Pope running wide through Blanchemont, and they're all running wide, Steve, that time. The challenge behind from the McLaren. We've seen how quick the 570S is in a straight line. Get the feeling that it's a matter of when not if that Chris Boyd manages to make a move on that Ginetta of Denise Pope.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really pushing the Ginetta and the McLaren at the moment. So, like you say, it'd be very interesting to see what goes on and how soon he can make a move, if at all. It's not a given. It may be that Denise has got enough in the tank to hold him back, but we shall see.
So actually it looks like Boyd is stuck in a Ginetta sandwich because Schenk has closed in behind, and it's Boyd that runs all four wheels off the track through Radion on that occasion. And here from this splitter cam you can see the back of the number 79 Ginetta, and you can see the straight line speed advantage the McLaren holds. To some extent maybe held that because of cutting through the track at Radion, but as they climb up towards Les Combes, Chris Boyd looks to have got the job done with the straight line speed of that McLaren 570S, dragging him past the 79 Ginetta of Denise Pope. So that's a change at the top of the AM class standings. So Boyd now leads Pope, and then it's Hop in the number 5 Cayman, a couple of positions further back in 11th. So it is an important change of position. Pope, who did pick up an AM class podium at the opening round at Brands Hatch, from 14th position overall in that race, but 3rd in class. So she has had some strong performances in the wet so far this season, followed by 2 15th places in the dry. So it looks like maybe the wet conditions either level the playing field, or more likely Denise Pope has something in the bag when the rain starts to come down in that number 79 Wild Things Ginetta. No drivers are yet to make their mandatory stop from the top of the order, but some of the drivers further down. Arvidsson in the 39, Berkman, who we saw was involved in that opening 10-minute drama, the number 4 Cayman in 23rd at the moment, has hit pit lane, with Willems and Kessels as well taking their mandatory stops inside the first 24 minutes of the event tonight, as we see Ian Thompson behind in the Camaro getting all kinds of crossed up through Stabilo, just running over the curve. A lack of traction causing that Camaro to really escape from the comfortable bounds of the working order there, and Thompson was left scrabbling, but managed to gather the car back up, and he lives to fight another day, and that allows Jan-Paul Eikelenboom just a little bit more breathing space as he attempts to make a move on Lee Mosley in the number 75 Aston Martin. As we see, Denise Pope heads to pit lane with 36 minutes remaining. She's the first of our top 20 really to make the mandatory stop. So let's see where that brings her back out, because that will be information crucial to feed in for the other drivers as they round through La Source here on board with Lee Mosley, looking back across the rear wing of his Aston Martin. And that is the Mercedes of Eikelenboom, and then Ian Thompson and Evan Tafas further back there. As they climb the hill, you can see how steep it is at Eau Rouge. But the track, crucially, Steve, it stayed damp. There's no sign in the next half an hour of any particularly intense rain. So could we see drivers starting to think about whether they take slicks at the next stop, or is that a decision potentially a little bit too daring?
Well, yeah, it may be that it's a little bit daring. We don't know, do we? We don't know how it feels out there at this moment in time. The lap times look pretty consistent between everybody. Nobody's gaining massively. No one's losing massive chunks of time. They're all around the sort of 2 minutes 40s mark. Quite a way down the field, down to 2:43s towards the back end of the field. So the spread of the lap times is pretty much what we've sort of used to now, and what we expect from these drivers. So I don't think there's anything too untoward, but yeah, maybe a brave move onto some slick tyres may pay dividends. While the rain's coming down still, I think it would be a very, very, very brave move, but the rain is forecast to ease up, so it may favour those that don't pit early. And we are coming to obviously 50% of the race completed, and that would then suggest that you know, it's probably the optimum time to drop into the pits. But yeah, it might be that some of the guys, hopefully they've overfueled so they can stay out longer, because it might be that we get the last 20 minutes, last 15 minutes on slicks. And we know when the conditions do change that you can put slicks on. Once you've got them up to temperature and you've got used to the extra grip you potentially may have, you can really pound some lap times in, and you can really claw some time back out of people. And there's no defending somebody when you're on wet tyres if the slicks are working.
So as we see, Alexander Delors and Nicolas Malot now head to pit lane with a little over 33 minutes remaining. But look on the left-hand side of your screen, Denise Pope, who was battling for 8th place, is all the way down in 21st now as a result of taking her mandatory stop. So plenty of time lost by heading to pit lane. Here is the number 79, Wild Things Racing, Ginetta. If she can get a good clean out lap, could see again a couple of positions potentially on Boyd and maybe on Malot if he makes a mistake in the stops, and if this lap from Pope is particularly quick. So let's see how this turns out. She's through the piff path now as other drivers are still trundling along pit lane and heading towards their pit box. In fact, Boyd hasn't opted to pit yet, so he's staying out, trying to make best of the current conditions out there, but he hasn't got it all his own way, because in behind it is Dimitri Schenk and Hop, who's now closed up in the number 5 Cayman. So these guys are locked in battle, and this is going to be costing them valuable time as Jan-Paul Eichenboom and Ian Thompson both head to pit lane as well. So a number of drivers inside the top 15 have opted to make their mandatory visit to pit lane before we hit the halfway mark. But the rain continuing to pour here at Spa-Francorchamps, and the tracks remaining damp. There is a slightly matte finish to the track, which suggests that maybe the worst of the wet conditions is past. But in some areas of the track, actually, it looks like there's still a little bit of water on the surface. So drivers will be having to take each corner as it comes.
I think that's a good point to make though there, Tim. I think the track is that sort of matte grey. It's almost at the point where we might start to see a racing line, like you said, that a dry line. The rain is still coming down, although it does appear to be easing slightly. And I think if you start to see that a clear racing line that is, potentially got no standing water on it, then that's the time, I think, maybe to make that transition to slicks and take a gamble, depending where you are in the field. Obviously, if you're sort of outside the top 4 or 5 or top 6, then you've really maybe got nothing to lose, and it's worth a gamble and just give it a go. But it'd be interesting to see, and like I say, I think it will start to come. I think in the next 10 minutes or so we may see that dry line start to appear.
As we see, Callum Boyd heads to pit lane. Sorry, I believe I've been calling him Chris all evening, so apologies to Callum for that. But the number 23 hits the pit lane speed limiter. And this will be interesting now to see where he rejoins, because he was battling with Denise Pope in the 79 Ginetta, where the gap between them was extended massively during that pit stop phase. Shows you how much time you lose by visiting pit lane, as Lee Mosley and Evan Natafas as well make their mandatory stops now, just as the timer ticks over into the second half of this race this evening. But it is still Spenkelink who leads the way from Tim Krul, now a gap of over 9 seconds. Then it's Luke Pound a further 6 seconds back ahead of Patrick Tracty, Yannick Valenduk and Dimitri Schenk. Then it's Frank Hopp and Callum Boyd on screen, who was in 8th but has now hit pit lane. Elgin van der Linden up inside the top 10 with Lee Mosey and Evan Natafas, as I said, now visiting pit lane. Then it's Rick Lotterman, Peter Cayenne and Alexander Delors, who's down in 14th at the moment, behind Malot, who's another driver who's made their stop, Steve. So they're outside of the top 15, but everyone in front of them still yet to visit pit lane, and they could be gaining some positions. And looking on the screen at the moment, Denise Pope is certainly hustling that Ginetta in an attempt to pass Callum Boyd in this pit
She's
stop
a hot
window.
potato tonight. But yeah, I mean, how frustrating must it be, the Spa pit lane? I mean, we watched Boyd there driving down, and it seemed to take an eternity. And here comes Denise Pope. She's going to cross the line. She's going to round the next corner, and she's going to be alongside Boyd, although he's in the pit still. And I think obviously it's job done. Maybe Boyd cost himself too much time out there battling. Maybe Denise has just got the job done, got the power down. We see Boyd rolling away, but there's no question about it. Denise Pope has got that position back off him. She is in front of him, and she's going to have a little bit of a cushion as well by the time he gets back up to racing speed. I think she'll have a second or two.
So as Boyd goes through the pit lane exit that sees him rejoin the track past Radion and through the kink up towards Les Combes, and look at that, a rather extensive lead for Denise Pope. She certainly made the right call at the right time to pit when she did, as that's now enabled her to gain a position with the likes of Frank Hopband, Linden Lotterman, Kyan and Charlotte Robertson, who's now inside the top 11, all yet to pit in the AM category. That could see her really benefit and reclaim the lead in category as Patrick Tractor heads to pit lane from 5th place in the number 313 Janetta with 28 minutes to go. He was climbing up the order in the opening half of this race from outside the top 10 to considerably inside it and looking like the man on the move. But Denise Pope now, with that position reclaimed from Callum Boyd, is certainly, well, she's in a nice patch here, Steve, with clean air both in front and behind. And that's sometimes all you need, isn't it? You just need that bit of track space to get your head down, get back on top of the conditions and really kick on and set up this second half of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll have given her great confidence now, and she's already out there. Everything's up to temperature. She's done a couple of laps, so she'll still be carrying a little bit of an advantage over this next lap or two until Boyd gets everything up to temperature. But Boyd, 5 seconds, that's cost him a minimum of, because let's not forget he was in front of Pope before he went into the pits, and now he's come out a full 5 seconds behind her. So she's had a great pit stop. I'm not saying he's had a bad one, but something's gone wrong tactically, either out on track before, maybe as we said, maybe that bit of battling's cost him some time and affected his lap times and allowed Denise to be out there in clear air. It's like we said at the beginning of the show, if you can pit and come back out into clear air and then just get hot lapping, it can really help you. And then strategy wise this evening, it looks like Denise Pope, certainly strategy wise, she's got the job done. She's just got the last 26 minutes now to maintain as much of that 5-second advantage as she can, and it is just dropped down to 4.7 as she crossed the line this time, but still a good advantage for her to defend from. And whenever all the pit stops shake out, I think she'll be somewhere near the top of the AM class.
So Nicholas Malott is in up towards 6th place. We just saw Alexander Delors in the 49 came and make his way past Charlotte Robertson. I will give credit to Charlotte there, because it looked like she moved aside to let the Cayman go, well aware of her own race and not wanting to inhibit the others, despite that being a fair position on track. Very heads-up driving from Charlotte to not cost herself time. She is yet to pit, and she's currently running in 8th position, but likely to drop back down the order. She was fighting around the top 20 mark before her stop. So really heads-up stuff. Very clean racing from everyone out there so far this evening. And we're seeing the order shuffle round as drivers make their stops. The top 5 yet to pit. Dimitri Schenk, who heads to pit lane from 5th place in the number 8 Janetta. He was fighting with Boyd and with Pope for the lead of the AM category. So let's see where he rejoins the circuit, opting to head 5 minutes into the second half of this one. 25 minutes to go here at Spa-Francorchamps, but Spenkelink still leads the way at a reduced margin, Steve. I've just clocked that. It was 9 seconds a few laps ago. Now it's down to 3.5. So I wonder whether Spenkelink has come a cropper in the conditions at the moment. The gap is reduced massively. You can actually see Kroll in the back of shot there. Maybe Spenkelink got held up in traffic as well. But with that margin now reduced, Steve, it's going to be even more important when Spenkelink makes his stop.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who knows? It's going to be difficult. I am just on the replay at the moment trying to maybe find what's caused the incident for him, so forgive me if I'm pausing while I'm speaking, because multitasking is not my strong point. But we'll try and find out what happened to Sem, see if it was anything major, or whether it was just a run wide, or ran off track and had to lift off, or whether he did indeed get caught up in traffic. But I'm just searching through that now.
Sure. So while Steve has a look, I'll run you through the order as we head into the final 24 minutes of this one. Sem Spenkelink leads the way, but like we say, a reduced margin to Tim Krul. Then it's Luke Pound in third in the 166 Aston Martin, best part of 7 seconds back from the leading duo. He was involved in a collision early on with Dennis Werkman in the number 4 Porsche Cayman, who's down the order in 21st position. Then it's Yannick Balenduk in the 301. BMW is 4th, but I've just seen on the timing screens 5th place Dimitri Schenk, who just made his pit stop, has been handed a drive-through penalty. So although he was going to fall down the order anyway from his pit stops, he's now going to have to visit pit lane for a second time to serve that penalty, which will surely see him drop out of the battle with Denise Pope, Frank Hopp and Callum Boyd for the lead in the AM category. So a penalty really didn't need to pick up, as we see Spenkelink getting through some traffic, but we're seeing Luke Pound as well head to pit lane with 23 minutes to go. A decisive move in a recovery drive from him, after fighting for the podium spots and being involved in that incident early on with Werkman at La Source. His Valenduk, though, is behind in 4th. He will benefit, and it's now the top 3 drivers are yet to stop, plus Charlotte Robertson, who's still holding on to 8th place in the 87 Ginetta, as Spenkelink is catching up to some traffic. There's a battle between Aston Martin, that was Van der Linden, and Jan-Paul Eichenboom in the 31. Mercedes going at it through Les Combes. So he's up to, well, these are 16th and 17th places battling. So starting to deal with traffic, but in doing that has extended the gap that had come crashing down in the previous few laps. And we do have a replay here. So through Blanchimont, everything looks okay and orderly for Spenkelink, heading up towards the bus stop, the final corner. He drops the anchor, heads down the gears, and through the right-hander, everything looks under control. Through the left, it just looks like he's looped it round, a little bit too eager on the throttle. Something happened there. He needed to get the car facing away from the wall. Plenty of time lost there, Steve. That's just one of those little mistakes. It looks harmless on the way in, costing you valuable time. One of those unforced errors.
Yeah, absolutely, and it almost looked like he struggled to get it going there. I think I'm not sure if he stalled it or not and had to restart, because it seemed to take him an age to get going. Because when I first saw the replay, I was watching it back and trying to work out what had happened for him there. But he's got it going again. It's normal services resumed, and he's 6.5 seconds almost to the good now again. So, but what did become apparent to me while I was searching for that mistake and watching the replay at high speed, there's some track cuts to come. We're seeing, as you've pointed out, we're seeing a couple of drive-throughs being handed out. There are some more to come, I can promise you that, because even our man at the front, Spenkelink, he's really, really pushing hard, and it's very much, I'd be very surprised if he gets to the end of this race and doesn't really comment about the fact that he's come close to getting a drive-through penalty.
So as we're seeing here, I was just about to mention this battle, Steve, as you cut to it. So there was some telepathic communication going on between the two of us. Nicholas Malott, Alexander Delors and Luke Pound in the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. These guys have shuffled around in taking their pit stop. So Malott pitted from P5 and Delors pitted from P3 at the time. So there has been an exchange of positions, I believe, during the stop. So you can see how strategy is important and making the pit stop at the right time. They're now 4th, 5th and 6th on the grid, separated by, as you can see, only a couple of cars lengths rounding through the piff path into this final 20 minutes of the race here, season 2, round 4 of the GT4s on Sim Racing Hub International. Sem Spenkelink leading the way, but yet to visit pit lane as Denise Pope. She retains the lead, so great strategy call from Denise to box earlier than her rivals out there on track, but she does have Frank Kopp in the number 5 Cayman for company. He's behind, only 7/10. You can see the gap on your screen. This is a battle for the lead in the AM category. Speed Denise's best finish this season, and it would also be Frank Kopp's, I believe. So 2 drivers going very well indeed at the moment, as we see in the top left-hand corner of your screen. Delors running wide through the bus stop, and that's going to allow Pound the opportunity to cut back on the exits. They cross the line, separated by 7/100ths of a second, and on the run down to La Source, Pound's going to have to brave it out around the outside of the hairpin.
Just to point out, Tim, sorry to cut across you there, as those 2 guys are duking it out side by side, but the track conditions as well now, they have dropped to greasy, which is just 1 stage drier than damp, but importantly the track is now starting to dry out that little bit, so we still see 3 guys at the top of the leaderboard that haven't pitted yet. It could be very much advantage those guys if they can hang it out for another couple of laps and maybe then come back out on some slicks.
So I wonder if they then, Spenkelink, Krul and Valender all holding out potentially for the slick tyres. I'll be adding greasy is 1 stage drier than damp to the Steve Brownlee Racing Dictionary as well. So that's two to add to the book this evening as they round through Les Combes down towards Bruxelles. Pound really eager to get the move done on Delors, who's almost fighting on the back foot at the moment. As further up the order, Krul heads to pit lane.
I think respectfully, I've been watching too many Murray Walker tribute videos, haven't I, coming out with some of these sayings.
It's good, it's brilliant. You're noting them down, and I'm sure they'll pop up in the future, particularly Hot Potato. I do very much like that one. As they head down the hill towards Pouhon, then it looks like Delors has managed to keep Pound at bay for now. Roll heads to pit lane then with 17 minutes to spare. So he has gone very late into this race, but Spenkelink and Valenduk look to be going even further. The track remains, as Steve mentioned, in that greasy condition. Ambient temperature still at 13, track temperature 17, so conditions have stayed very much the same throughout this event so far, throughout the previous 43.5 minutes. So the track is going to be getting dried up at every turn, every time a car runs across any part of this track, kicking up spray and removing that moisture from the track surface. Hope here on screen, she was clearly side by side with Hop through the previous timing sector, but able to keep the Cayman at bay. She's now running in 8th place, 22 seconds off the back of Patrick Tractor in 7th, but crucially still retains the lead of the AM category. But on the run through Curve Paul Frere, as we see the picture-in-picture, Delors running wide through the bus stop and losing the position to Luke Pound. It looks like Denise, lost the position there on the run up towards Blanchimont. The pace of that Cayman, very quick in a straight line, is just able to get the move done and takes the position and the lead of the category. And I'm looking in the picture-in-picture, Steve, because Kroll is going to be returning to the track any second now, and I wonder, it looks like he's got out cleanly and ahead of this battle pack that includes Malott, Pound and Delors. They've been costing themselves time, but Kroll now is going to have a nice clear patch of track to kick on and get after Spenkelink, try and make any kind of inroads into the KTM driver's lead. Maybe through the pit stops we might see something happen, but I think that's clever from Kroll. A bit of gamesmanship in my eyes as Spenkelink heads to pit lane, because the question now is, what does Spenkelink go for? Does he go for the wets or does he go for the dries? And looking at the track conditions, looking at the rain still falling, Steve, you wonder whether they might just stick with the grooved rubber.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's literally waited for everybody else to pit, as we see Denise Pope just coming under attack again now from Boyd, and again it's just the Ginetta struggling with that straight line speed, and she's just a bit of a sitting duck when it comes to flat out. I'm sure she'll be looking for another gear and then thinking, no, I'm in top gear and what can I do? She just gets the car a little bit sideways in frustration, really trying to get the power down to set it up for an attack into the next braking zone. But she's on the back foot now, especially as as the track is drying out a little bit. As you can see, just some dry lines there in the traction zone and into the braking zones. It is starting to a dry line is starting to appear, so it's going to be very much getting things back to as we would expect with some of the car's power advantage in the straight line. As we see Boyd though running very, very wide there, and onto the curbs, having to give room now for Denise Pope as she gets back down the inside of him, and she's going to defend this one now, and she's got the position back. So Denise is not giving up, she's battling hard. She's looking for her best result of the season, I believe, but at the moment she's second in class in 9th place. So a great drive from Denise from the whole race, really. She's remained consistent. Spenkelink is in the pits, he's undergoing his pit stop at the moment. Valenduk has decided to pit as well. He's in behind him, so we're going to see where Sem's going to come out of the pits very, very soon, as he's moving again, and we will see where that puts him compared to Krull.
So as he rounds the corners up through the pit exit lane that cuts across the inside of Eau Rouge and then through the runoff area on the exit of Radion, he'll then swoop across to the left and rejoin the racing surface, which, as you can see, as Steve alluded to there, that lighter shade of grey is really where the dry line is. There are indeed 50 shades of grey on the track surface at the moment. It's dry. Oh, there we go. Write that one down. It's dry in some places, wet in the other, and I don't want to allude to that anymore. So Valenduk in second. He's going to be rejoining from pit lane as well. Let's see if he can gain from the late stop. He was involved in that battle around the 5th and 6th places, and hopefully with Malott, Delors and Pound battling, he's going to benefit. But as he rejoins the track, Denise Pope though has lost out now to Callum Boyd, so she is running in 3rd place in the AM category, 10th overall. You do get the feeling that Pope is really driving the wheels off this Ginetta as she runs up the hill through Radion over the curb on the right hand side. A very stellar performance from the 79 Wild Things Racing driver. She's doing a fantastic job of keeping the car up inside the top 10 at a track that really isn't going to suit the Ginetta, owing to the straight line sections up through Eau Rouge and obviously onto the Les Combes complex and round towards Blanchimont and the bus stop. But Hop now leads away in the AM class in 8th, with Boyd and Pope in behind, and Arvidsson in the 39 Ginetta closing up towards these three. So could be a 4-way fight for the AM category victory as they head into the final 11.5 minutes of this one. But looking on the timing screen, Steve, and looking on the timing tower on the left hand side, Philip Tractor up into 6th place has closed up massively on the back of Alexander Delors in the 49 Cayman. They're separated by 3/10. So Tractor, who had his a strong qualifying, his best qualifying of the season, up into inside the top 10, I believe. Oh, sorry, no, he got 9th last time out at Imola and at Suzuka. So, sorry, 9th, that's race result. So, yeah, his best qualifying result of the season, inside the top 10 for a change, is now fighting on even higher up the order than he's been able to do so far this season. In 6th, looking to wrestle 5th off of Delors into the bus stop. They go through the right and through the left, and the Ginetta is looking pacey in this part of the track, but as they get onto the straight, I wonder if that Cayman will just pull away. But Steve, to see 3 Ginettas inside the top 11, those respective drivers being Tractor, Denise Pope and Arvidsson, they're all pulling some fantastic performances together at a track that might not favour their car.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just also watching Sem's lap times just to see if he has come out on some slick tyres, whether he's going to do something a little bit different. Just 10 minutes left of the race. His last lap was a 4:03. Some of the guys behind him are doing low 2:39s. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, it'd be a brave man to come out on slicks, although there is that dry line appearing. I don't think it'd be foolhardy, I just think he'd be brave. So interesting to see. But yeah, Patrick Tractor doing a great job in the Ginetta. Just see that he's struggling down that straight, obviously, to keep anywhere near the Cayman in front, but now he will, we expect he'll close right up in the braking zones through this twisty stuff where he's going to gain all the momentum and have the advantage over the Cayman. He's going to close that gap back down again and be putting him under pressure pressure again as soon as possible. It's just difficult for these guys in the Ginettas as the track does dry out. If they do get any sort of a move done, they then have to really, it's hard for them to defend in those flat out down the straights. But I'm sure he'll give it his best go, and he'll do himself proud.
Both drivers, interestingly enough, looking to dip off that dry line and run through some of the moisture that's still on track, potentially to cool their wet tyres, as we see Luke Pound making a challenge on Nicholas Malott for the final step on the podium into the pit path. He's unable to get the job done there, as we see Patrick Tractor in the top left of your screen, even closer now to Delors than he's ever been. Nearly made the move. Delors runs wide over the curb, has to gather up the rear of the number 49 Cayman, and on the way through Stavolo and onto the Paul Frere curve and the climb back up the hill towards the bus stop. It looks like Tractor does have the pace in the corners, but is just losing that time in the straights. But as in the right hand side of your screen, Pound all over the back of Nicholas Malott, whose mirrors will be filled with the number 166 Aston Martin. As they come up towards the bus stop, they've got traffic in front. That's the 919 BMW of Baukamp. Through the bus stop, a little bit of miscommunication there with the blue BMW. Malott tried to make the move, and that's going to leave him open to attack from Pound as they run across the start-finish line and move over to track left. Malott cuts across the nose of the BMW as if to say, get out of this one. You're not in the fight here. Pound looks to the outside. Can't close up in the braking zone. Will try and get the cut back through the hairpin at turn 1. As they run down the hill towards Eau Rouge, the speed of that Aston Martin, he's closing up, but it's not going to be enough to make a move through one of the trickiest corners in the racing world. And behind, in the top left of your screen, Patrick Tractor is still working at getting a job done on Alexander Delors in the 49 as they head into the final 7 minutes of this one. Pound now alongside Malott on the climb up the hill towards Les Combes. He's not able to get the move done just yet. They're still side by side into the braking zone. Pound goes deep. Can he get it stopped? No, he just about manages to keep the car on the racing surface, but Malott squeezes through and maintains the position across the timing line. Pound had got the podium spot, but through the corner, he had to relinquish the position, Steve. It's all heating up in this final 7 minutes. Pound's really working hard to get that final podium position.
He's indeed, and the Tractor's working equally as hard and pushing that Ginetta and extracting every ounce of power as he can. As we see Malott running really wide there, giving Pound the advantage and effectively the inside line now, which should be game over and position gained. In fact, yes it is, but news hot off the press, Spenkelink and Valenduk were the last two cars, I believe, certainly in the top 10 to make their pit stop, and their last laps were 2:38, which was 2:38.1s, which was pretty much a full second faster than anybody else on the track. So those guys, whether they've just got the right tyre pressures or whether they have gone to slicks, not quite sure, but at the moment they have got a full second advantage over anybody else on the track, judging by their last lap times.
So fantastic pace from the top two as they head into the final 5.5 minutes of this one. Spenkelink still leads the way, now an extended gap of 12 seconds. But behind here, this battle for 5th place rages on. Alexander Delors able to keep ahead of the feisty Patrick Tractor in the number 313 Ginetta up the hill towards the bus stop. Delors on the inside stays defensive. His Cayman backfires as he hammers down the gearbox into the final chicane. Patrick Tractor doing all he can over the curbs there to try and optimise his line. On the run up towards La Source, it looks like Delors is going to be able to hold this position for just a little while longer. As ahead, Luke Pound getting that job done on Malott into the Pouhon curve. He got through and holds that position, but Malott is still in close company with the 166 Aston Martin. So that battle yet to be decided and could change in the final 4 minutes of this one. As we see Patrick Tractor working through Eau Rouge, sliding up through the top, and wow, Delors goes very, very wide. Is able to rejoin, almost using the pit lane there as a way back onto the track. Tractor, though, unable to benefit because of that lack in straight line speed. Both of them running on the wet part of the surface. It looks like Delors defending is up ahead. Malott tried to go around the outside of Pound through the Les Combes sequence of corners, the right, left, and then right once again. Tractor, though, tucks in behind Delors. He has got the pace in this section. He's closer than he's been before. Let's see if he can get the job done. Both drivers moving offline slightly on the run down into Bruxelles. Tractor goes to the outside. Around the long hairpin, he's still there. It will come the inside through the X curve. And if he can hold it there, get the car stopped and turned in, he's got the job done. But on the run down the hill, Delors fights back. The straight line speed of that Cayman allowing him to drag up the inside on the run down to Pouhon. But Tractor braves it out around the outside and keeps that position. So he's up to 5th place. And now
Fantastic
he really
move.
needs to kick on through this final sector, Steve, because if Delors sniffs a chance of fighting back, I'm sure as hell he'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a fantastic move from Tractor, and you knew when we were on board there, you could just hear him holding the throttle as he was outside, and he just fed that power in at the right time. The Cayman almost came back at him, but he managed to hold it. He managed to introduce the power just at the right time and got the inside advantage for the next corner. Got the job done. Now, as you say, he's got to extend the gap there to protect that position in the next high-speed zone. Delors will be gaining down here potentially. Tractor will be hoping for a cooperative backmarker ahead, and then obviously, as he's gone, he's lost it. Tractor was pushing too hard there. He was really pushing to try and defend that position to get a gap, and he's now damage limitation as Delors up on the inside, and he's going to get that position back, although Tractor's trying to hold it round the outside. The big question now is how much damage has he sustained, because obviously already in a slow car in a straight line, he potentially is going to be even slower now, and that was a Patrick Tractor mistake.
Wow, that could be race settled. That really made me jump seeing the Ginetta spear off to the left-hand side. I'm sure Patrick inside that car was equally caught out by the wet conditions. It looked like he just got 2 wheels over the curb and onto the AstroTurf on the exit of Blanchimont, and that lack of grip just turning the 313 Ginetta into the wall. He lives to fight another day, but like Steve mentioned there, how much damage is he carrying? The front left of that G55 GT4 looking very second-hand indeed, as Delors makes his way past Robertson. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very, very easy to make that type of mistake on that corner, even in the dry. If you just hook it up and get the power on too soon, and you unsettle the car on the curbs, if you're running too low a ride height, something like that, it can really flick you out and send you off. But interestingly, going back to Spenkelink, he's just done his last lap, which was his best lap of the race, of a 2:36.5, compared to everybody else, including the guys that we're watching. Patrick Tractor's 241s, 242s and 240s as best laps. So yeah, Spenkelink, I would be very surprised if he hasn't swapped onto the slicks now, and he's really taking full advantage of the fact that there is very much a dry line on the track now.
Well, with 1 minute to go, it looks like we're going to get another lap. But crucially, the driver behind 301 BMW, behind Tractor, we just saw at the back of the shot, he's done a 2:37.6 on the previous lap. So I wonder whether Valenduk in the BMW is another driver who opted to take slicks. Valenduk pitting around the same time as Spenkelink as well. So those two drivers could have taken the slick rubber, and that's really showing to be the best decision as the track starts to dry up. Yeah. And he's now all over the back of Tractor, and yes, Stevie does just look like he's got that lateral grip in the corners.
Absolutely, and as I said earlier, if you can get a dry line and you can get onto those slicks, there's no defending against it, as we're now just going to see the BMW literally drive past that Ginetta as if it's a different class, and he's going to be able to brake later, he's going to be able to get on the power sooner, carry more corner speed. That's job done for that position now. Unfortunately for Patrick Tractor, that mistake has just cost him too much time and the position as well. As we just seen, was that Delors running deep into the braking braking zone as well. So this may not be over for Valenduk yet. He may gain another position. He might get a little bit further up that timing table, because again, Valenduk, what was his last lap? A 2:36 last time out compared to Delors 2:39 with that mistake. So he's like pretty much 3 seconds quicker. The gap is only 1.5. So yeah, do the maths, and I think the answer's quite obvious.
So Valenduk, the only driver able to match the pace of current race leader Sem Spenkelink, who in the right-hand corner of your screen is rounding the Spa-Francorchamps circuit for the final time this evening. He needs to just bring the car home, a near 20-second advantage over Tim Kroll, who was our pole sitter this evening. If he can make it round cleanly, as he has done so far this race, Spenkelink will take victory. It will be a second race victory this season and a second in the wet. So when the rain comes down, it's Sem Spenkelink who rises to the top. But Valenduk, in the centre of your screen, is really hustling on now, all over the back of Delors in the 49 Porsche Cayman. Valenduk even brave enough to look around the outside of Bruxelles. He feels like he's got enough grip and he's got the job done almost. He just needs to hold his line through No Name or Rix, and he's got it done. And I'm sure the straight line speed of that BMW will just see him pull away from the Cayman on the run down the hill towards Pouon. Job done for Valenduk. He secures 5th place as he rounds the left hand. Gets across the curb and has to check himself there, because one mistake like that too many and you'll end up like Patrick Tractor, off in towards the wall and losing positions. But Spenkelink rounds Blanchimont for the final time, heads up towards the bus stop and the final braking zone of the lap through the final chicane. And it's Spenkelink who's going to take the checkered flag to win round 4 of Season 2 here in Sim Racing Hub International's GT4 Championship and take victory at Spa-Francorchamps, a convincing margin over pole sitter Tim Kroll. As we see on the right-hand side of your screen, drama. That's our AM class leader, Frank Hopp, in the number 5 Cayman, grinding to a halt. He's in the gravel. I presume he hasn't got enough petrol to make it back to the start-finish line, and that's going to elevate Boyd Arvidsson and potentially, or most likely, and almost certainly, Denise Pope to a podium position in the AM category. But it's Kroll who ran across the line 24 seconds behind Spenkelink, and Luke Pound takes the final step on the podium, holding off Nicholas Malott in that final 10-minute battle. Then Yannick Valenduk takes 5th place ahead of Delors. Patrick Tractor manages to bring a rather damaged Ginetta G55 GT4 home in 7th place ahead of Callum Boyd, who's going to cross the line in 8th overall to take victory in the AM category ahead of Stefan Arvidsson in the 339 Ginetta, and then Denise Pope behind. She's going to hold on to 10th place just about. Well, she's going to have to fight for it with Evan Tafas to the line. Let's see if Denise Pope can hold on to that top 10. She does by less than 0.3 of a second. Well, that really wasn't over till it's over. As we see Jan van Eikelenboom here, rounding through Blanchimont. He looks like he's set to take 14th. So it's Natafas in 11th, Lee Mosley in 12th, rounding out your top 5 in the AM category ahead of Ian Thompson and Eikelenboom on screen at the moment. And then Dimitri Schenk, 10 seconds back from these 2 drivers, set to take 15th after receiving a drive-through penalty. I'm sure he'll be fairly happy with that one. And Steve, really, just to show how quick he was right through, throughout that race, but particularly in the second half, Sem Spenkelink setting a 2-minute 35.5 as he crosses the line to take the checkered flag. He really was the man of the moment this evening, and the benchmark for those drivers out there. But no one was able to compete with him tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Are we taking bets onto the fact he was on slicks for that last sort of 10-12 minutes as we saw it? I think so, to be fair, but it'll be interesting to see what he has to say. But kudos to him. He got the strategy right. He hung out there to pit as late as possible, which was, I think, under the circumstances, was a sensible thing to do. Because it gave him that option to go onto the slicks. Not that he needed to. I don't think he ever came once he got out in front. From the moment moment he got past, he didn't come under pressure again. But for me, it was another great race tonight. Some fantastic driving from everybody, and some well-deserved, some well-deserved finishes there. And good to see the AM class battling hard as well. That was a really good, well-fought battle by the AM drivers. It has to be said, and it's easy to overlook those guys sometimes because they are a little bit further down the order. But I think you did a very good job there, Tim, of highlighting their battles, and credit to those drivers as well. Some great racing.
Well, importantly though, it was very clean racing, so a fantastic effort from all of the near 30 drivers taking part in the race this evening to make sure that despite the conditions out there on a damp and drying Spa-Francorchamps circuit, that all of them managed to keep it clean, although there was that incident just in the back of shot there between Dennis Berkman and Luke Pound. Impressed to see, though, Pound recover from that to third place at the checkered flag. So a very, very impressive drive from the 166 Aston Martin driver. We're just waiting on drivers. The top three hopefully will drop into the green room and we'll grab them for a word post-race. But before we speak to any drivers, if you have enjoyed the event this evening, if you're like Demian De Keyser in the chat and Benjamin Simmers, who enjoyed the race, then please feel free to like the stream here at Sim Racing Hub International TV or subscribe to the YouTube channel to stay across all the action that takes place in this community, whether it's GT3s or GT4s, sprint races or endurance races. There's plenty of it to enjoy here, and that race was very much an example of the action that can be had in this championship, the clean, fair, hard racing that has really become a characteristic of this community, and especially in this GT4 championship. Battles up and down the order. Benjamin joking here, Steve, that he was getting ready to spam some hot potatoes in the YouTube chat, but everyone keeping it clean. So testament to the drivers for handling the conditions very well.
Yeah, absolutely. There was no real hot potatoes out there this evening. They were all pretty sensible. I think they all heard me in the debrief and in the brief driver's briefing, and good driving, as you've said, from everybody. And it's what we've come to expect here at SRHI. We've been sort of SimSpot Solutions has been providing the stream for them since the beginning of this year with the GT3s, GT4s, and the exciting, it has to be said, very exciting endurance championship that's underway. So if you haven't checked that one out, please be sure to look on SRHI's YouTube channel and just check out some of the older streams that we've got on there. Some great racing throughout, and as I say, we expect it from these guys now because we know they can do it. The respect that's shown, it's not always just about putting that move around the outside or diving up the inside and being that driver that does that. It's having the trust in the other driver and him allowing you the room to do it without pushing you off, as we're seeing in the highlights now. Spenklink, Round, Kroll, those two guys, just like everyone else, showing great respect here with this move from Spenklink as he goes around the outside. Kroll left him enough room. As I said in the race, it would have been very easy for Kroll just to squeeze him a little bit, squeeze Sem out over onto the curbs and maybe cost him that position, but he didn't, so fantastic. But I think we do have some guys in the green room, so shall we jump into the green room, Tim, and I'll let you ask a few questions.
Sure. Joined in the green room by two of the drivers from our podium positions this evening, and I'll go to our race winner in the KTM. It's Sem Spenkelink. Now, Sem, you looked to have the pace on the field throughout the event this evening, but particularly in the second half where the track dried up pretty much significantly on the racing line. So the question is, did you take dry tyres in the second half of that one? You pitted with, around 15 minutes to spare, but it certainly was a brave decision if you did so.
Yeah, I went for the dries in the second stint. I tried to extend the first stint as long as possible, but the guys behind me did the same, or at least Tim. So I think we probably were on similar strategies. And the track got greasy, and I was like, okay, yeah, the dries are like optimal now, and let's just go for it.
Looking back at the previous race at Imola, where you were locked in battle and it was a little bit messy, and then unfortunately had the disconnect. did you really think that today, you'd be coming back and fighting for the victory? Was that your target, to really get your championship, back on track?
Yeah, so I'm not sure really what you mean by disconnect, but of course, Imola was a difficult circuit for me, just like Spa would have been if it was completely dry. I mean, the first stint with the battle with Tim showed, and the Aston behind me as well, that their pace on the straights was like insane. Even though it was raining, I didn't have a lot of wing on, and they still just. I was straight in the slipstream, 0.1 behind, and they were pulling away. So wouldn't have had a chance. The rain dance of last race did its job.
Yeah, sorry, Sam, I was getting my drivers confused there. It was P3, wasn't it, last time out at Imola?
Correct.
But a very different track here at Spa compared to Imola. And we go to another different circuit at Misano next time out. Another technical circuit for the drivers to deal with. How do you think the KTM's going to fare there? Because we've gone from what is a very technical circuit at Imola to a rather flat out, high speed corner circuit like Eau Rouge, and then we go to a track famous for its MotoGP action. How do you think the KTM will fare at Misano?
Yeah, it should be better than at Imola, but there's a long back straight, of course, where I'll struggle. But I hope that I can gain enough time in the technical session that leads up to it to just keep these guys behind, or overtake them if possible. But it will be a difficult one, but more chance than Imola for sure.
I'm sure you'll be doing the rain dance again next time, because a win at Brands Hatch and a win at Spa in the rain. Can you do the win in the dry, Sam? That's what we want to know.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough. I mean, these guys are really quick around me, so I hope I'm able to. But for now, the wet has suited me well. Let's see how I do in the dry on a track that suits the KTM a little bit.
Well, thank you very much, Sam, and congratulations on your result this evening.
Cheers, Tim.
We'll head over to Tim Kroll, who finished second this evening. Tim, it was a difficult race out there given the conditions, but you managed to get that pole position in qualifying, and it looked like you'd have the pace to battle for that victory. How was your event this evening?
Really difficult conditions. I did the same strategy as Sam, trying to extend the first stint as far as possible, and then I went into the pits and didn't see a dry line, so I went for wets, and then I came out and it was a dry line, so that why Sam made the right call over there. But yeah, it was pretty difficult, but yeah, it was great fun. I think you could see on the live stream that you commenting on the speed difference in the corners between KTM and Porsche is just insane. I mean, I get my legs out when on the straights, but before that, it's just Sam just got closer and closer.
We have seen that, up and down the order, how the characteristics of these individual GT4 cars play out, and obviously you've been pretty consistent in your results, not outside the top 5 so far this season. Are you looking to win races now, or are you looking to start building those points and scoring highly? Because Misano next time out, halfway point of the season, does that change your approach to these races?
Now, of course, I'm entering to try and get as much point and win. That's the whole goal. Because I won at Imola last week, so hopefully I can win another one. But yeah, Sam is fast, Yannick is fast, so there are a lot of fast drivers. So it's all down to the car characteristics, I think, and then wait and see.
Well, thank you very much, Tim, and congratulations on your result this evening. And we'll go over to Luke Pound, our third place finisher. Luke, it wasn't a straightforward race. There was contact early on that saw you drop down a couple of positions, but you're able to fight back. And towards the end of the race there, locked in battle with Malott. That was certainly an exciting race for you in the Aston Martin.
Yeah, it was. That was definitely good fun. It was. I'm not sure what happened with obviously that contact at the first corner, and that is obviously battling with Sam and Tim in front of me, and trying to take a different line, and obviously got tagged. So I don't know if it was his fault or my fault. So we'll have a look at that back on the replay. But yeah, it was tight. I was wanting to really go on a couple more laps and then make a choice with the tyres. But it's when I pitted, I had to pit because of fuel. So it's went for the wets, and yeah, the tyres were screaming at the end. So it was really difficult trying to get past them a lot.
Gonna say, so you did pit a lap or so earlier than the other drivers. In fact, it was 6 minutes you were in the pit lane before Kroll headed to make his mandatory stop. But crucially, Luke, I won't want to remind you of Suzuka, but you made it to the checkered flag without running out of fuel. Is this, do you think, a fair showing of your pace? Do you think this is now a result that stands out as this is how quick you are in this championship, and do you think you can replicate this going forwards?
Definitely, if it's wet, then yes. This is my first championship in the GT4, so I've never done it before. So I know I'm sort of there and thereabouts in the dry, but when the rain sort of comes in, it sort of levels it out a bit better. So I think Imola was more of a Porsche track anyway. There was so many Porsches sort of in and around the top 10. It was crazy. So, but I think, yeah, it's getting better. I'm closer now, especially in the dry. So obviously I carry a bit of ballast going into the next race, but yeah, a lot more practice to do at Misano, that's for sure.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations on your result, Luke, and indeed congratulations to our top three this evening. Sem Spenkelink taking victory ahead of Tim Krul and Luke Pound. Congratulations, guys.
Cheers,
Thank
mate.
you very much.
This evening, and it was great to hear from the three drivers there. We hear obviously Sem and Sem opting for the dry tyres in that second half of the race. It shows that strategy is very important. We said during the build up to the race, 60 minutes. It's not a sprint race. It's almost a mini endurance.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we called it, didn't we? We said at 33 minutes left of the race, the guys would be better to run a long stint to stay out there and see what the conditions do, because we felt at that point it's going to get drier, and anybody who can run that longer stint is going to have the option of putting slicks on and maybe extending gaps or coming back at people, because we saw the lap times were sort of 3, 4 and 5 seconds faster than other guys towards the end, with that last lap that Sem did absolutely magical. Really good lap, and just sort of stamped his authority on what has been a very dominant race. As we said, once Sem got past at the into the lead, there was no looking back for him. But some great driving from the other guys behind. Luke Pound mentioned his incident in the interview there. We took a look back at that in the replay, and it dropped him down a few positions. I'm sure Luke won't mind me saying, in those opening laps he was making a few mistakes himself, a few little unforced errors of getting the car out of shape, just having to lift out of the throttle a few times, but he really settled down and he sort of clawed back, got his head down, and just I won't say it was a recovery drive because he didn't fall all the way down the order, but he certainly did enough to come back. But Valenduk right at the end, one of the drivers that put the slicks on, that's a driver that would have been wishing for another 5 minutes on the server, because he was really making headway and gaining positions, and absolutely the strategy worked for Valenduk as well, and a few more minutes, a couple more laps, and he would have potentially been up to fighting for almost podiums, I think, that with the laps times that he had. But some good driving, some good respect shown from all the guys, and some great racing, and looking forward to the next round. Fantastic stuff.
Thank you very much to everyone who tuned in to the live stream. There's a number of drivers, a number of you really commenting on how exciting the race action was. And if you have enjoyed the stream and you have enjoyed the racing tonight, please like the stream and subscribe to the Sim Racing Hub International YouTube channel. But join us for another thrilling event, I'm sure of it, in 2 weeks' time as the GT4 Championship heads to Misano, and the halfway point in what has already been a thrilling championship. Will we see the likes of Sem, Luke Pound and Tim Krul up towards the top end, or will we see the tide turn at a very different circuit? From Steve Proudly of Sim Sport Solutions and myself, Tim Fulbrook, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Goodbye.